So Cardinal, do you recognize this body cam video?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That is my body cam.
And you said this is about 5:30, 5:40 in the morning. Can you describe, is this where you testified that you started sort of under an overhang of the graduate library?
Yes.
This play point of about 49 seconds in, were you proceeding to go somewhere?
I believe that is where we were proceeding to go in front of the steps I have to go under.
Yeah. I'll see. Okay. And at this point in time, you testified that you and other squad members lined up. Is this what we're seeing at approximately 8.2.3 minutes in your video?
Yeah, I believe we're in line formation at that point.
Okay. And where are you in relationship to the diagram? Where are you facing things of that nature?
So I'm on the eastern, excuse me, the east side of the line, and we are facing north.
Until this point, is everyone in the line standing?
Yes.
I'm just kind of going forward.
People start to run towards the scene. You get a group of about 8 coming in from the northwest.
Officer Carver, you testified that you were ordered to proceed, and is that how you can hear people say move back?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Now, I paused this.
The northwest.
I pause this at play point, approximately play point 4.24, 4 minutes and 24 seconds in. This is your body cam video facing north, correct?
Correct.
And obviously your eyes are facing north and you're looking around, I assume.
Yes.
Do you recognize anyone? Did you recognize anyone at this point in time on May 21st and also in your body worn camera video?
There were a couple that I recognized prior to that, but most of it was, I have heard, yes, I recognized. In this screenshot.
Okay, and who do you recognize specifically and how?
Objection. Your Honor, I think there is case law specific to an officer using a video to identify a defendant in a criminal proceeding. There are 2 instances where that's permitted, and I'm citing US v. Lapierre. I can get you the site shortly, but there's 2 instances where that's permitted. One, when the person to be identified's appearance is significantly changed, or 2, when the officer has a long existing relationship with that person that they are identifying. Neither of that has been made on the record, so that's the basis of
Well,
my.
I think that I note the objection, but I think your question, you asked a or two-part question. So I think it has to go to that. That may answer part of what defense counsel is doing.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. Had you had prior contact with any of the individuals that you saw on May 21st up until this point in time?
Yes,
Okay. And those individuals that you had prior contact with, were they personal contact as far as being close to them or dealing with them in some fashion?
yes.
Howard.
We had numerous protests on campus during that year, and many people identified were participants in the prior protests.
And some had been arrested as well.
Correct.
So did you know some of their names?
Yes, sir.
Did you know what they looked like?
Yes, sir.
And based upon that prior contact and knowledge, were you able to then, on May 21st, yourself personally observing them that day, able to recognize and identify any of them?
Yes.
Okay. And now for purposes of identification with this video, your body worn camera that depicts what you're in part seeing that day, can you tell us who it was that you identified? Were able to identify?
Yes.
Hang on, before you do, with that foundation, your objection's overruled. I think she's satisfied the requirements. Go ahead, counsel.
Go ahead.
Yes, starting from the far left, there's a pink shirt, blue jeans, and long hair.
And I'm gonna go to where you described with my pointer. Are you referring to this pink shirt?
Correct. That is Miss Willow.
And have you had prior contact with her before May 21st?
Yes.
Miss Willow, do you see her in court today? And I would ask at this point in time, Your Honor, that if you would ask anyone in the courtroom who has a mask on to briefly pull them down or remove them.
Yes, those that are wearing a mask, please. No, you're good back there. You're good. I'll leave you. All right, go ahead.
Did you say yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Could you point to and describe something that Ms. Willow is wearing today?
Wearing a black sport coat as well as the pink.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that this witness has identified defendant Willow in this matter.
Without objection, record shall so reflect.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, directly next to Ms. Willow is Mr. Fromm. Black shirt with a yellow circle with tree insignia, blue jeans.
Directly to which side of Ms. Willow?
It's her left, our right. Right there.
Where my arrow is?
Yep.
And you said that is whom, I'm sorry?
Mr. Fromm.
And do you see Mr. Fromm in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you please point to him and describe something that he's wearing?
He's wearing a tan scarf as well as a black shirt, long hair.
Could you point to him? I'm sorry, I missed it. That's okay. May the record reflect this witness is identified defendant I detected Fromm.
Without objection, record shall so reflect.
Anyone else?
Yes, directly next to Mr. Fromm. With a white tank top, black shorts. And a red cookie head blue. Could be his left, our right.
Are you referring to this individual where my
Yes.
pointer is? And who is that?
That is Miss Samantha Lewis.
And do you see her in court today?
Yes, I do.
Could you please point to her and describe something that she's wearing?
She is in the back row there. She has a mask covered on, white cookie and black and green here.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Did you wish the record to reflect
I'm
that?
sorry.
No, it's okay.
May the record reflect that the witness is identified defendant Samantha Lewis. Thank you.
Without objection, record shall so reflect.
Yes, one other person just to the right, wearing red cookie over his head. And a dark colored shirt, dark colored pants,
And who did you recognize him to be?
Mr. Council.
And are you referring to this individual right here?
Yes.
Where my pointer
Yes,
is?
sir.
And do you see Oliver Hosler in court today?
I do.
Could you please point to him and describe something that he's wearing?
Gentleman wearing a white shirt and
Your Honor, may the record reflect that this witness is identified defendant Oliver Hosler.
Without objection, record shows so reflect.
The shield officer want to appear like it is.
Now, Officer Carter, up until this point in time, what were you and your line doing?
we were just standing in formation at that point.
And now at this point in time, what's occurring?
Members of the line are starting to clear a path, because the subjects are starting to throw things towards our area.
And in particular, did you notice one of the individuals that you identified previously engaged in any event?
Yes, just prior to this, Mr. Hosler takes the table and places it in front of us.
Is that occurring right here? Is that Mr. Cosler?
Yes, miss.
At this point in time, were individuals beginning to do other things?
Yes, they were, sorry, they were starting to throw items at us, obviously, and it was around this time that they started to link arms.
Do you recognize anyone in this particular play point of 547?
Yes, the subject in the brown shirt with the white mask, it's Mr. Shapiro.
And you see Mr. Shapiro in court today?
I do.
Would you please point to him and describe something that he's wearing?
He's a black shirt and a white hoodie, or black sweater, I'm sorry.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that this witness is identified defendant Henry Shapiro.
Without objection, record shows so reflect.
Officer Cargill, do you recognize, you testified just a little while ago that you started linking arms. I apologize, I don't know why Do you recognize, or can you describe verbally for the record what you saw that day and what is also depicted in your body camera at this point in time?
So there's numerous people, linking arms, Mr. Shapiro, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Bond, are all linking arms, along with other people along that line, directly right in front of our line.
And you already identified this individual as Mr. Shapiro, correct?
Correct.
And then to his right, do you recognize that person?
Yeah, Ms. Lewis,
And to her right, do you recognize this person?
Mr. Fromm.
And just behind him, the head popping out, do you recognize that person?
It appears to be Mr. Fromm.
How great are these protectors of the people?
Let the rescue get their rest.
As you're approaching, I'm assuming you're approaching based on your video. I don't want to put words in your mouth. What are you doing at this point in time?
So at this point in time, we are instructing these subjects to move back, move back.
Who is that that's directly in front of you at this point in time?
Mr. Shapiro.
And what, if anything, are you doing, and what, if anything, is he doing?
I am pushing forward, instructing him to move back, and he is using his body weight to push up.
Who is directly in front of you at this point in time?
Ms. Lewis,
And what are you doing, and what, if anything, is she doing?
I'm instructing her to move back, and she is using body weight to push up against mine.
Objection as to what Ms. Lewis is doing, Judge. He can only testify as to what he's doing.
He can testify as to his perception, however, what she's doing, and he was there, so objection's overruled. Go ahead.
Could you feel it?
Yes.
What just happened right there?
I felt.
I'm gonna just pause it to adjust some audio. Who is in front of you at this point in time?
Mr. Fromm,
Let me go back. You say Mr. Fromm, who is it? Where is he?
he is directly to my, he's wearing, it appears to be a white mask.
Right here.
I believe so, yes. Yes.
And then this is directly in front of you.
That's Mr. Fromm. Unfortunately, he has been able to body weight.
Let me stop. I'm just gonna stop so the record's not over each other. Go ahead. What are you doing at that point in time, and what is he doing, if anything?
I'm pushing, basically trying to use all my body weight to hold them back and they're pushing up.
And can you feel that pushback?
Yes.
You keep testifying that you were instructing, ordering these individuals to move back. When you are ordering them to do that, are they complying and doing what you're telling them to do?
No, they're not.
At this play point that appears black, what's occurring?
It is most likely because my body cam is.
Judge, I'm gonna object this speculation, and also, the video speaks for itself, so if he's gonna testify about his observations from that day, that's one thing, but for him to give his commentary on what's taking place in the video, I think the court can view the video and under the best evidence rule, it speaks for itself without commentary from the witness.
Well, I don't know if it's the best evidence rule, but if he's speculating as to what's occurring at that
Sure,
point,
I
I
agree.
won't allow that. And I'll sustain the objection. So I'll ask you to rephrase your question.
I will. You just testified that Mr. Shapiro was pushing against your body, pushing back. You were pushing forward, he was pushing back. Obviously, your eyes are above your body cam, correct? Is it fair to say that body camera doesn't capture everything that's going on? You can see different things versus what your body cam can.
Correct.
So when this went black, what are you seeing? What's going on?
Mr. Fromm is directly in front of me, right on me. It's essentially his chest or his body against my chest.
For the record, I want to be clear because Ms. Ryan asked about Mr. McKean Shapiro. Is this about just Mr. Fromm or is this about Mr. McKean Shapiro as well?
I apologize. I think I just spoke.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you talk? Who was it at this point?
Mr. Fromm.
We're talking about.
Correct.
Who are you observing at this time?
Mr. Cosmo.
Could we please clarify, is he observing at the time or is he observing the video and commenting?
Fair.
Fair. On May 21st, who were you observing at the time of? On May 21st of 2024, who are you observing that is depicted in approximately play point just after 9 minutes and 8 seconds in? Do you recognize any individual in your body cam video that you saw on May 21st?
That I knew was him at that time.
Or later learned their name?
Correct. Yes, that was Mr. Cosmo.
And can you tell me from your memory from May 21st, what are you doing in relationship to Mr. Cosmo, who's in front of you in regard, and what if anything?
I am pushing forward and he is using his body weight to push back against my arm.
And can you feel that?
Yes,
And were you ordering him to do anything at the time too?
I believe there was orders to move back.
And did he?
No, he did not.
Who are the individuals that you saw on May 21st, 2024, that are depicted in play point approximately 9:40 with your body worn camera?
Mr. Fromm and Ms. Lewis.
And what, if anything, do you remember from that day that you were doing, and what, if anything, were they doing?
I was attempting to push them back, and they were pushing against me using their body.
Could you feel each of them do that?
Yes, I could.
This is what you do to us. It's not to do. It's not to go. This is what you do. This is our right. This is our right.
Your body worn camera ends. What happened at that point in time?
At that time, somebody's body was pushing against mine and was able to hit this button on my body cam, which deactivated it.
You testified a little while ago that you had an opportunity to review other officers' body worn camera from that day. Did you have an opportunity to review Officer Blanche's?
Yes, I did.
And from the perspective of reviewing Officer Blanche's body cam video, were you able to recognize anyone in his video that you had previous contact with prior to May 21st?
Yes, I was.
And in that previous contact with this individual, did you know their name and did you know what they looked like?
Yes, I did.
I'm gonna object to him testifying to anything in anyone else's body camera. We don't know what angle this is, where Mr. Launch was in the direction of Mr. Cargill, and if Mr. Launch can testify as to his own video.
Does that go to the weight or the admissibility?
Both the admissibility or the weight, but also, again, this is just someone's body camera. I don't know where this is, what point of this is. I believe Mr. Wancha is going to testify today. He can testify as to the contents of his own body camera, but I don't think Detective Cargill should be testifying to someone else's. Plus, I don't even know where this is. This isn't even where we just left off.
Judge, my objection is, I guess with his own body cam, it's kind of blended where he's testifying personal observation and then what he also sees being played in court. But with regards to another officer's body cam, he lacks personal knowledge of what was taking place. His only knowledge of that is from watching that body cam outside of court and then presumably now wanting to watch it while the Attorney General plays it.
If I could briefly respond, I might.
Go ahead.
I think all this is a little premature. I'm not going to be asking this witness to testify about what another officer did. All I'm going to be doing is showing this individual that he knows from a previous incident, showing him on this camera to identify him. That's it.
It's solely for the purposes of identification,
Correct.
not the details of the content of what's contained in it.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I don't understand why Detective Cargill can't just testify to who he saw and what he saw that day without using someone else's body camera. That's his own personal knowledge, but that's just to act.
I'm gonna overrule your objection based upon the response. Your objection, which was basically, I'm gonna overrule that objection also on that. Yes, I have.
I would just renew my USB lip ear objection. The sole purpose of this video is for this detective to point at it and identify a person from this video.
Yes, but the foundation which which was the basis for your objection previously, he just laid regarding that prior to any identification.
I would agree on the first video, just not necessarily this one, so I wanted to make that.
What? No, he just testified to that. So objection's overruled. Go ahead.
And did you personally see this person there on May 21st as well?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Anyone from previous contact in this particular body worn camera?
Objection. He's already identified people, and this actually overlaps in time with the video of his own body cam footage.
He hasn't identified this person, Your Honor. I wouldn't be repetitive and wasting the court's time otherwise.
The problem is,
I don't know who it is, so go ahead. You guys.
she's clearly asking him to make an identification only from this video. She asked him.
No, she's not, because he stated, okay, so what was said, and Madam Attorney General, correct me if I'm wrong. He said he's had previous contact with this individual. He's come into contact with the individual. He knows their name.
And he also testified he saw him personally there on May 21st.
Correct.
I'm picking a point in time to demonstrate to the court what this person looks like and have him identify him for the record for purposes of identification for the exam. Unless counsel wants to stipulate to, Mr. Mueller wants to, attorney wants to stipulate.
Yeah, let's not hold our breath on that. As to your objection, I'm going to overrule it because I think the foundation has been laid for him identifying this individual, particularly if he saw them there, knew who they were, knew their name, identify it from the video.
Judge, I guess I'm saying, if he's identifying him from on May 21st, says, oh, that's Mr. Mueller right there. I recognize him. Then this video is totally irrelevant. We're not making an identification based off video, but she's playing the video and he's making the identification when he watches the video later, says, oh, that's Mr. Mueller I see on the video. That's my objection. If he had seen him on May 21st and recognized him, then there's no objection there. He can make an identification off personal observation.
I don't even understand that. He's looking at the video, saying this individual's there, what he observed, and he's identifying that person from this video.
Right. And that's
or
what
he's
I'm
identifying the person on the video based upon what he had observed. So I guess I'm unclear as to your objection.
I guess I'll let her ask the question. I'll withdraw my objection at this point. That's premature.
Thank you, because it's going to be overruled. Mr. Minnick.
Can we identify the timestamp?
Sure.
Thank you.
Like point, approximately 6 minutes and 12 seconds.
All right, go ahead.
Of whose body cam?
I know.
Watch it.
I'm gonna go back slightly if I can.
What?
That's a little clearer, okay. Do you recognize anyone from seeing them that day personally and prior experience in this video clip? Paused at approximately 6 minutes and 12.
Yes,
Who do you recognize? And can you describe what they're wearing?
gray shirt, tan shorts, and mask.
And where is he sort of in relationship to this stilled photo so that I could use my pointer to point him out?
So he is, if you go to the white table that is right in front of the screen, and go straight up from there. Right there.
This is Mr. Mueller.
Correct.
And do you see Michael Mueller in court today?
I did.
Would you please point to him and describe something that he's wearing?
He's in the back wearing a red scarf as well as a white shirt and white pants.
And I guess I failed to ask if people could remove their masks, but I don't think that's was a problem. May the record reflect that this witness has identified the defendant Michael Mueller. Your Honor, to the record.
Without objection, record shall so reflect. All right. Cross-examination, Mr. Murat.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, sir. You've been in law enforcement for about 22 years, correct?
Correct.
And you, in working, you prepared with your department before, I guess, this embarking on this encampment, correct? Yes. Did you meet with your department, come up with a plan as to how you were going to proceed with this matter? No.
Told to review my report.
No, I guess. So you testified that you were in Squad B, correct? Squad 2. All right. And your squad, you testified that your squad's role was to form a line, correct?
Yes, we were online. Correct.
Okay. When was this directive given to you to form this line?
That morning.
Okay. And would this be upon your arrival or prior to your arrival?
Okay. Let me go back. Are you talking about when we were giving our squad, when we were giving our teams and where we were going to be, or when we were asked to form a line?
No, when you first arrived and I guess I was going based off your testimony that you were directed, your role was to form a line with regard to the squad that you were with, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, who gave you this role to form this line?
It was part of our detail sheet.
Got it. And you received that detail sheet.
On what team we're going to be.
Okay. And did you receive that detail sheet? I'm assuming prior to. Okay. And that would be before you arrived to this.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you. Now, when you get there, you at some point start yelling, "Move back" to everybody, correct?
Correct.
And when you're yelling, "Move back" to everybody, you initiate contact with your baton, correct? Yes.
My baton made contact with you, correct.
And I guess just to rephrase that question, I guess your baton made contact with those people before those people made any contact with you, correct?
That's what you guys say.
Okay. Now, you previously identified my client, Miss Rhiannon Willow, correct? And you said that she was standing in a pink sweater, I believe, correct?
Now, eventually a clip plays and there are other people locking arms, correct?
Correct.
But you don't see Miss Willow locking arms, correct?
Don't move back, please.
Okay. And when you saw Miss Willow, you were saying the commands such as move back, correct?
I don't know if it was when Miss Willow was there. or not.
Fair enough. Okay. So after you give those commands to move back and after you are confronted with, well, are in front of people who are locking arms, is it fair to say you don't see Miss Willow?
That's fair to say.
It is fair to say. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Now, you indicated prior to today's hearing that you reviewed body cam. Is that correct?
Correct.
Who did you review that body cam with?
That was part of the investigations of identifying people, so I was reviewing it myself.
Got it. Did anybody outside of law enforcement review those body cams with you?
Excuse me one moment. Young lady. Right there in the front row behind Miss Lewis. What were you just doing with your camera?
I'm a reporter.
With what agency? Did you file paperwork? Do we have it? What agency are you with? When was your paperwork filed? Who'd you file it with? We get a copy. Thanks. They did. All right, my apologies. Just wanted to make sure that had not gotten to me. Go ahead, Council.
Thank you, Ron. Now, Detective Cargill, your goal here was to, I guess, have everybody move back from this encampment, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, there's a point in time where, well, I mean, did you ever tell them where to move to?
I believe there was a point in time where they were instructed to move on.
Okay. And that would be back, right? Hence the move back. Now, eventually everybody does in fact move back, correct?
Eventually, I guess eventually.
All right. Now, after there's a point where everybody passes the tents in the encampment, correct?
Right.
And after that point, are they still ordered to move back?
Yes.
Okay. Why would they be ordered to move back after they've already cleared the encampment?
That was a call about that administration.
And would you agree that other than a field, the only thing back would be a road?
Sidewalk road.
I don't have anything further for this witness, Judge.
All right. Mr. Macklin.
You indicated that you had recognized Miss Lewis from prior occasions. Is that true?
Correct.
All right. What was that prior occasion?
And basically in and about around the area of Benai.
From when? What date?
States. She was part of the encampment when I was there, stand patrol.
So you'd been to the encampment ahead of this morning?
Perimeters.
The perimeters of the encampment? Have you gone into the encampment and spoken to Miss Lewis at any point? Okay, and so how did you know Miss Lewis's name?
News report that she did.
A news report? So you know Miss Lewis not from personal knowledge, but from reading a news report? Okay, so you had never taken Miss Lewis's identification before, is that correct?
At that point.
All right, and you had never arrested her for any reason before, is that correct? You never issued her a citation from any point before, this morning, is that correct? All right, so you read a news article that would have shown Miss Lewis's photograph?
I believe that's a video. I believe it was a video.
A video or a news article? A video interview by what agency? How did you find out her name then? She gave it to who? To you? To the news agency. And when did you review this news article?
I do not recall exactly.
Okay. On your direct exam, you indicated that you had recognized all these individuals from prior occurrences. In this situation, you didn't know Miss Lewis from prior occurrence. You knew her from a news article. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. So in this situation, your body worn camera shows that you've been doing what's called a maneuver. There's a specific maneuver you referenced in your report. I just can't find it at this point. Some type of maneuver where you're formed in a line and walking in unison with other officers, step by step together. Is that correct?
Line formation?
Yes.
Yes.
What's the name of that maneuver that you guys are conducting, or that type of
Line formation.
a line formation? Okay. And within this line formation, there's certain rules. You've been trained on line formation and how to conduct yourself within that line formation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're not supposed to break up the line formation. Is that true?
Every attempt not to, yes.
I didn't.
Every attempt not to, yes.
The purpose is to stay within the line. Is that true?
Correct.
All right. And as you're walking forward, you're moving. You've already referenced for the record several times that you're moving your batons forward, taking a step back, putting your baton back to your chest, and then it goes in order that way. Step, baton out, take another step, baton out. Is that correct?
Move as you're taking step back.
All right. Your body worn camera shows that the individuals that are at the scene that morning are linked up in arms. Is that true?
Correct.
All right. These individuals never delink their arms and start to swing at you. Is that correct?
I don't know if they ever, unlike Dark, but I know that I don't believe that there was any punches thrown. That are
Right. Any punches thrown, taking their hands and putting them on your person, or touching you with their arms or their hands at any point.
I don't exactly recall any of that.
Okay. And it didn't show that on your video this morning. Is that correct?
Not this.
Okay. And so certainly Miss Lewis never punched you. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in terms of your contact with Miss Lewis, it was your baton that went into contact with Miss Lewis. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And the purpose of you being there that morning was a directive from whom?
The administration, our police administration.
Okay. Do you know specifically who the person that gave the order was?
Which order?
To go break up the encampment.
I don't know specifically which member of our administration did that.
Okay. You were there on the orders of the administration, though. That's for sure.
Correct.
Okay. I have no other questions for this. Actually, Your Honor, I'd like to have the record redact the identification of Miss Lewis based off of that testimony.
Objection is denied. Or your request is denied. That will not be redacted. Mr. Minnick, cross-examination.
Sir, when you started pushing people back with your baton and ordering them to move back, there were other people standing immediately behind them, weren't there?
I believe there was, yes.
And from the video, we're not able to tell how many people deep that crowd was, are we?
Correct.
No other questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Askey.
Is it Detective Cargill?
Yes.
Okay. Detective Cargill, you're aware of the directive that was given, the 10-minute warning, I'm gonna call it, right? The 10-minute warning that was given by someone else before you all came in.
I know that there are warnings, correct.
Okay. Did you know that you were within that 10-minute warning that was given, that the people in the encampment were given? They were said that they were going to be given 10 minutes to leave the encampment. And then you all were supposed to come in.
Right.
Okay. Do you know how much time you were in within that 10 minutes?
I don't know exactly how much time we were in there before we were instructed to go.
Okay. So I want to actually talk about identification of Mr. McKean Shapiro. Where did you know him from?
Previous incidents and arrests.
What incidents and arrests?
There was a Lutheran incident, November 17th.
And you specifically know that my client was there?
Right.
Yourself, you were there?
Yes.
Okay. And in the video, you can see people have locked arms. Okay. And it's a big crowd. Okay, you were there that day. Can you tell about how many people were in that crowd of the people who were locked, arms were locked?
I mean, I would have to guesstimate, but probably at least 40.
Okay. Can you tell how many people's arms were locked together with my client? If you can, you can. I just was wondering. Okay. And at that time, they're locked arms and you're pushing back with your baton. Okay. And from the video we saw, it's safe to say that my client, I'm going to call him Henry, it's just easier. Henry was being pushed by you. Is that correct with your baton?
Right.
Okay. And he fell.
Right.
Okay. And he was locked arms with other people.
Right.
And there was a bunch of people behind him.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And it's that entire crowd of people pushing, right? It's not just the front row that you're saying that the people in there are pushing. Is that correct?
We are being pushed against.
Right. Which means that if there's a crowd of people pushing, that crowd is pushing towards where you are.
I can only see what people directly in front of me are doing. I can't
Okay.
exactly see behind them if they were pushing it.
So you couldn't see if they were being pushed by people behind them in this crowd.
Not that I can see.
That would make people fall forward if they're being pushed from behind. Right? If you're being pushed from behind, you would fall forward. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. You couldn't tell if people's bodies were pushing against you because they were being pushed from behind.
Well, I mean, I could tell that when I pushed back, it wasn't as if I was pushing back a crowd of people. I was pushing back a specific person. If it was a crowd of people, I would have a much harder time pushing back.
Right. But what I'm saying is, from your testimony, you're saying you couldn't tell who was behind the people in front of you.
I couldn't tell if they were pushing back.
Exactly. So you couldn't tell if they were being pushed into you.
Correct.
Okay. You kept giving the directive of move back. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Did you in the video give a directive of where to move back to?
In that video I did not.
Okay. And so did you make it clear how far back everyone was supposed to go?
Did I?
Yes.
No.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. McNulty.
Please bear with me. I'm going to get into some details, but I think it's important. Okay. So on the morning of May 21st, did you hear Director Marshall's first initial dispersal instruction?
I heard him speaking, but I could not hear exactly word for word. I was concentrating on what was in front of me.
So at the time when he began giving the first dispersal instruction, were you on the bricks of the diag?
I'm not sure if I was, I don't know at what point his first instructions were, or if it was while we were there or prior to.
Okay. Did you hear him during this first dispersal instruction tell people to leave the diag?
I can't tell you exactly what was said just because I was concentrating on what was in front of me. Things were starting to get thrown at that point.
Did you hear him say that people had a time window where they could get their belongings and leave?
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object us to ask and answer at least twice where he testified that he couldn't recall the exact words that were given because he was focused.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Did you hear Director Marshall over the loudspeaker tell individuals they had a period of time where they could get their belongings and leave?
Are we talking about at that time or after with the reading?
I'm talking about at the time. Did you hear it?
I did not hear exactly what was said at that time. I don't know exactly if he said what was exactly said.
Do you not remember or do you not know?
I remember him talking and I remember him giving instructions. I don't know exactly what was said because I was focused on what was directly in front.
So he gave this instruction over a loudspeaker, right?
I heard him over the speaker. Yes, I don't know exactly what was said.
Okay. And the intent with the loudspeaker.
Phone. She's out. Folks, I'm just going to make it real clear. I apologize, Mr. McNulty. I had instructed counsel. I know that security had instructed individuals that you will not be using your phones in the courtroom. You can have them with you, but if we do see anybody in the courtroom, those spectators will be removed from the courtroom. If you're using your phone, if it is a defendant using, counsel is permitted to use their phones. I understand that. If it is a defendant that is using the phone, your phone will be confiscated until later on this afternoon, if we give it back at all. Those are the rules that we're operating by. Ms. McNulty, you may continue.
Not what I was saying. Director Marshall's initial dispersal instruction was given over a loudspeaker, correct?
Correct.
And the purpose of loudspeaker is so that the people will hear it, correct?
Correct.
And the intent with these instructions is that they be heard, right?
Correct.
And followed.
Correct.
Did you hear Director Marshall give a second dispersal announcement about 5 minutes later?
Again, I heard him speaking throughout the incident. I don't know exactly what was said.
Did you hear Director Marshall say you now have 5 minutes to depart the premises?
I object again at this point, asked and answered. He said he can't testify to the exact words that were given because he was focused on what was in front of him because people were throwing items.
Your Honor, the time limitations that were given, and I can show a video if we want to go through that. But I'm just asking if he heard them because they seem
Well,
important.
I think he has indicated, I think on 3 occasions, I've allowed you a little bit of leeway, but at least 3 occasions
Okay.
he did hear.
Okay, I will keep.
And I think also under Ms. Askey's question, he did.
I just want
Not
to make
aware.
sure that it's clear he didn't hear or doesn't know. Okay. Did you ever tell any individuals at the encampment they had to leave to the north?
Yes.
How did you say that?
Move to the north. Go north. I believe it's move to the north or go north.
Did you say that to Mr. Kozler?
I don't recall who was in front of me at that time.
I want to ask you, go back to the second announcement. At that time, when you recall hearing it, you were not authorized to march in, were you?
I'm sorry. So on the second announcement,
Correct.
I don't know exactly when that came, but we were only to go when we were given orders to move forward.
Who would give you that order to move forward?
I believe it was either Sergeant Richmond or Sergeant Ellis.
Okay, could it also have come over the loudspeaker?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember who gave you the order to march forward that day?
I heard Sergeant Richmond.
Before Sergeant Richmond gave the order to march in, there was a third announcement, wasn't there?
I don't know exactly what order the announcements were or what you announced. It was first, second, or third. I knew that Director Marshall was speaking. I could hear him talking through the megaphone, but I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying because I was paying attention to what was in front.
So you don't recall Director Marshall in the third announcement saying you have 3 minutes to depart in order to avoid arrest?
Objection, asked and answered.
I'll allow the clarification over.
I couldn't testify that I actually heard him say exactly that.
So as counsel has pointed out, I've asked you multiple times whether you heard these specific time limits, and I just want to confirm you've said no every time.
I heard him speaking, however, I did not hear exactly what he was speaking to.
He has said he hasn't heard the
Okay.
time limits. He said that to you, Ms. McNulty. He said it to Ms. Askew. Can we move on?
for bearing with me. When you said move north, check that, that's already been asked. Did you tell Mr. Kozler to put his hands up?
I do not believe I did.
He did though, didn't he? He left them up.
Correct.
We saw that in the video too, didn't we?
Yes, I did.
His hands were up for over a minute, weren't they?
For a period of time. I don't know exactly.
I want to talk to you about the time immediately before Mr. Kozler was pulled through the line of officers. So you testified earlier that Sergeant Feltis was in charge of your unit, correct?
Correct.
And it was his decision who to pull through the line of officers, right?
Correct.
Before he pulled Mr. Kozler through the line of officers, did you talk to Sergeant Feltis?
Okay, as far as.
About Mr. Kozler?
No.
And at the time that someone is pulled through the line of officers, they would be given to the arrest team, correct?
I'd like to make one clarification.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the sergeant's decision. It could be the person on the line that decides to, we call it sweeping them in, and we can decide that too. So it's not necessarily just a sergeant, it's somebody else.
Okay. But in this situation, Sergeant Feltis made the decision. And he made that without your input.
Correct.
I'd like to take you back to when the line of officers began marching in. When that line started moving in, there were also officers stationed on the perimeter of the diag, wasn't there?
I believe that there was, yes.
There were officers stationed on the east perimeter and the west perimeter, correct?
Correct.
And the intention there was to leave the north as the egress route, correct? And as the line began moving forward, no one was allowed in or out of the east and west perimeter. Is that correct?
Nobody was supposed to be allowed in there. I don't know if people got in or not. Possibly.
Now in the video, we saw you come into closer proximity to Mr. Kozler. And for the majority of that time, his chest was facing toward you. Is that correct?
Correct.
His hands were up for quite a bit. And you admitted that you pushed his chest with your baton.
Correct.
And sometimes that caused Mr. Kozler to go back quite a few feet, correct? Now, during that period of time, if Mr. Kozler wanted to turn around, put his back to you and leave, do you think he could have done that?
Yeah.
With the people behind him pushing the other way?
I believe that he made an effort, sure.
Could he have left through the perimeter?
He could have went that way. He would have been struck at that point.
Could he have left through the west perimeter?
He could have went that way. He would have been struck.
also possible he could have been arrested.
I believe if they are leaving, they were free to leave and there was further action.
How long have you been at U of M?
2010, so 14 and a half years.
And to you, you understand that the diag refers to the brick diagonal space in front of the library, right?
I kind of is the way I equate the diag is kind of the surrounding area. You got the buildings that go there, Hatcher, Angel, Mason, Tish, chemistry, and that whole kind of block area. The interior of that block area is not just the brick area.
So you consider the diag past the flagpole?
Yes.
100 feet past to the road?
Okay.
So we're talking over 100 feet outside the brick, you consider part of the diag?
Yes.
Do you think students at U of M consider that the diag?
Objection, speculation.
Okay.
Sustained.
You testified earlier that you earlier identified Mr. Kozler looking at a video, correct?
Yes.
Was that specific point in time in the video the time you actually recognized him that day, or was that just identifying him?
I recognized him at that time. I believed it was fairly confident in the video.
But you weren't sure.
No, I couldn't. No.
Further questions?
Thank you. Mr. Kuchar. Mr. Why is the individual standing? Go ahead, Mr. Kuchar.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Detective. So you said you were familiar with Mr. Mueller from before this incident, correct?
Previous ones.
All right. All right. And what sort of incidents were those?
The roof incident on one time, I believe he was arrested at that.
What is it?
Roof incident, November 17th.
Was there some other sort of political protest taking place? Okay. So what was your involvement with him on that day?
Members of the arrest team doing something regular reports.
Okay. And so you just remember that he was there on November 17th?
He was arrested.
Okay. Not by you, correct?
I don't recall if it was the arrested people that day.
Okay. And so on May 21st, you're saying you saw him and said, oh, I recognize that guy.
There was other incidents throughout the year.
And these are incidents on U of M's campus involving different sorts of political protests.
Correct.
Fair enough?
Sure.
Now, you knew that this encampment had been taking place for some time, correct? Right, and you understood that students and there was other members of the community there protesting certain policies of the university administration. Fair? And at some point, the police administration told you that we're going to break up this encampment, correct?
Yes, at some point we were.
And you guys had a meeting before May 21st to discuss what it is you were going to do that day, correct?
We call it a briefing, I guess.
Right.
The morning of.
Okay, what time did that take place?
Probably before 5 a.m. or so.
Okay, so you're saying you showed up to work that day Were you normally scheduled to work that early?
No, you're called to be there early.
All right. And you were told why it is you were going in, right?
Yes, I assumed I wasn't 100%.
Okay. And when you arrived, you were told, you were briefed on how this encampment was going to be broken up and what your role was going to be in that, correct? And as you understood it, the purpose of breaking up that encampment was because there was going to be some maintenance and cleaning on the diag, correct?
I believe it was some sort of restoration issue.
All right. And what part of the diag was to be restored, if you understood?
I don't know exactly.
Okay. When you were briefed, was the dispersal order read at any point? Did you know what was going to be, what instructions were going to be given?
I believe, I don't recall exactly, but I believe we were told that a warnings were going to be given.
Okay.
And the subjects given an opportunity to leave prior to took any action.
All right. And were you told that that warning and opportunity to leave would be 10 minutes?
I believe that it was something, there were going to be numerous warnings given. I don't know if the exact times given to us at that briefing or not.
At this point today, you don't recall if it was given?
I don't recall.
And when you arrived, you heard, was it Director Marshall? What was the name of the person on the loudspeaker? You said you heard him giving instructions.
I heard him speaking, telling them, I assume it was.
Okay. And you never heard the words 10 minutes coming out, right? Okay. Were you familiar either through your briefings or your conversations with other officers or hearing instructions? Were you familiar, did that time frame of 10 minutes ring a bell or stand out to you in any way?
I mean, it sounds familiar. I mean, I don't know exactly the time constraints. I knew that they were going to be giving numerous opportunities in a matter of time.
Okay.
Numerous warnings within that time.
And did you understand that at the point that you moved in, whatever that time period was, had not yet expired? Did you know that? Okay. And you still went in, correct?
Yes.
That was the instruction given to, I think, by Sergeant Richmond, you said, right?
That's right.
Right. To move in. And the understanding was that the time frame given to these protesters had not yet expired, correct?
That I knew that the time frame had not expired.
Yes. Did you know it had not yet expired?
Yes.
Okay. But your job is to follow Sergeant Richmond's orders, so you were moving in, correct?
The team was getting things thrown at them, so the order was to move in.
Okay. Now, when these you didn't see Mr. Mueller put his hands on any officers. Fair statement?
Fair statement.
Right. You didn't see him push or shove anybody, correct?
Right.
Did you see any points where he was shoved with officers' batons?
Talking about review video, we're talking about in person.
In person.
In person.
Okay. From review of videos, did you see at any points where he was shoved by officers' batons?
Reviewing video, I did see where he was pushed back.
Okay. And at some point, he was pushed back, even though his back was to the officer who was pushing him, correct?
I can call back.
Okay. Now, once these protesters were moved out of the brick area of the diag, they continued to be pushed and told to move back, correct?
Correct.
Up until the point where they were basically on the street.
We were told that to move along. I believe the sidewalk was a stopping point.
Okay. Even once they were moved back to the point that the diag could be cleaned and maintained, they were still told to leave, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Right? There was no area where they would have been allowed to stay, correct?
I don't believe so, no.
Because the expectation was that they would be removed from the entire area. Fair statement?
I believe, I don't know exactly if they were, if what the administration's line was gonna be, if they were gonna be allowed to stay on the sidewalk, or if they're gonna be instructed to move along for the safety of everyone.
Okay. Your understanding was they basically wanted them gone, right?
To move them back off the diet.
Thank you. No other questions.
Mr. Hayter.
Your Honor, no questions.
All right, very good. Any redirect? All right, you may step down. Thank you, sir. We anticipate your next witness is going to take about this long also. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to take a brief recess. Well, let me give a specific time because hurting you attorneys is like hurting squirrels. So come back at 11:25, let's say. All right. Thank you. Court's going to stand in recess, and can I, young lady from the press, yeah, let them know. My apologies for the cameras came out. Court does call the cases of people state of Michigan versus Lewis versus Willow versus Pontefract versus McKean Shapiro versus Mueller versus and versus Haslund. Counsel, please state your appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Attorney General Sean Ryan.
Good morning, Judge Ryan Barat, PA 3665, Minneapolis, Florida.
Oh, Lauren asked you on behalf, Mr. McKean Shapiro.
If it pleases the court, John Minnick on behalf of Avi Takman.
Morning, Your Honor. Mayor Mackler representing Mrs. Samantha Lewis.
Morning, Your Honor. Stacy McNulty representing Oliver Kosler.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mark Hyder on behalf of Mr. Siddiq.
And good morning, Your Honor. Jamil Kuja appearing on behalf of Mr. Mueller.
All right. Thank you. And are the people ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
All right. Call your first witness.
Call Officer Cargill to stand.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to further testimony about the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thanks for your first and last name for the record, please.
Cargill.
All right, you may inquire.
Where are you, my boy?
At the University of Michigan Police Department.
In what capacity?
I'm a detective there.
I'm sorry.
A detective there,
And how long have you been a police officer?
22 years.
Always with the University of Michigan,
Now I've at the University of Department.
such as?
Leon Township, Jackson, Department.
I want to direct your attention back to the date of May 21st of 2024 in the early morning hours. Were you working on that day?
I was.
And were you assigned to assist in the restoration and cleanup operation of the University of Michigan VIAG?
Yes, I was.
And what was your role or your assignment that day?
I believe I was squad 2.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
We were all separated into different squads. I was squad 2 under the leadership of Sergeant Simpson.
And what was Squad 2's role at that time on that morning?
We were going to be forming a line.
A line in regards to what? To do what?
To basically assist people to move back from the gun.
What was the purpose of you being there that morning?
To remove the people from the diet.
How were you dressed?
Pretty much exactly how I am now, other than I had a gloves.
Okay, when you say how you are now, just for the record, can you describe, just in a little bit more language detail, what you have on?
It is our Class B uniform, so I have an outer carrier vest, which contains my body camera, my taser, as well as my magazines for my pistol, and a BB assault fancy.
And do you have any markings on your Class B uniform?
Yes, I have my name, cargo, badge, and police on that.
It says police on it.
Yes.
And in the early morning hours, where did you begin sort of organizing, if you will, that morning?
When we arrived at the location, we went to the right in front of Hatcher Library, the graduate library. There's a overhead kind of a place that it's underneath the building. I'm sorry.
And approximately what time of day was it?
It was probably 5:30, 5:40.
And where did you go from there?
We moved in front into the dining and placed ourselves pretty much right in front of the Hatcher steps.
And did you hear anything going on audio wise while you were either under the graduate library overhang or as you were entering the area at the bottom of the stairs of the Hatcher Graduate Library?
Yes, I was Director Marshall that was bringing warnings to the others. In the encampment.
Warnings in what regard?
To vacate the premises essentially.
And during that time period, did you make any observations of anyone doing anything?
Yes, many of the subjects that were in the encampment began to place things in front of us, such as logs, cement blocks, lights, chairs, tables.
And did there come a point in time when you moved?
Yes, it was that we were instructed to move forward. We began to move forward and move some of those items out of the way to clear our path.
And then what happened?
We would stop until we were told to move forward. Then we moved forward to the subjects.
Okay, and when you say you were told to stop and then you were told to move, was there a particular way that you were moving?
Yes, it was pretty much a shuffle step. Just basically one step forward. We had a baton in our hand and we'd say move back, move back.
And you're also doing something with your arms.
Yes.
As you were just testifying. For the record, can you describe verbally what you were doing?
Basically, we have the baton close to us and then push it out arm length just to move this up back.
And was everyone that was in that line, were you in the front line, would you say?
Yes.
Okay. And everyone in that front line next to you, were they moving in the same manner?
Yes.
And there's a reason you're all moving in the same manner?
To basically protect ourselves so that nobody can get behind us and we're all in one line to secure our area.
Is there any kind of particular training or theory of what you were doing that morning?
Yeah.
How you were doing it? I'm sorry.
Yes, it's considered encampment training.
You mentioned that your uniform has a body-worn camera on it.
Yes.
Just for the record, verbally, can you describe where it's located on your uniform?
Sure, it's on my left breast, attached to a magnet clip.
And then you also have something next to that, closer to the middle of your body. Can you tell me what that is?
This is my radio mic that allows me to reach out to our dispatchers.
Did you have your body-worn camera on and operating on May 21st?
I did.
And that was located on your body, as you described it today. Did you review your body-worn camera video before you came to court today?
I did.
Did it appear to be working normally?
Yes.
Also, as part of your assistance in this investigation, after May 21st, did you have an opportunity to review any other officer's body cam video?
Yes, I did.
And if I may, I'm ready to show some video on the screen, if that's possible.
Court recalls the case of the People versus the DTNL. All counsel is present. And you may call your next witness. I would just advise those that are present in the courtroom so that we don't run into an issue again. The court is not permitting at all the use of cell phones, you can have them with you, but you cannot use them, cannot text or otherwise transmit anything from the inside of the courtroom. If that does occur, you will be asked to leave the courtroom and will not be welcomed back into the courtroom. As to defendants, and I will indicate this, your use of cell phone during the proceedings is also prohibited. We will confiscate your cell phone. We will not, of course, remove you from the proceedings unless it persists. As to counsel, I will permit the use of cell phones. All right, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people would call Officer Carl Moncho.
Mr. Hader, you indicated your matter was at
1:30.
You told me 1.
Oh,
You were trying to get out early. Never mind. Yeah.
check, it's a 32-minute drive to Nova.
For you, not for me. But that's okay.
Right. You solemnly swear to further testimony about giving the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, self you got. Have a seat. State and spell your first and last name for the record.
I'm Carl Mancha, spelled K-A-R-L, last of W-A-N-C-H-A.
All right, you may inquire.
Good morning. How are you employed?
I'm a police sergeant with the University of Michigan.
How long have you been a police officer?
Since November 2017.
What address your connection to the date of May 21st of 2024 in the early morning hours? Were you working them?
I was.
And were you assigned to assist in the restoration and cleanup operation of the University of Michigan DIA?
I was.
What was your role or your assignment that day?
I was assigned to Squad 1 to, as one of the line officers on the front lines to help review the encampment under that.
And how were you dressed?
I was in full police uniform, which consists of dark pants, an outer vest, my badge, my name is on the police on the rear of the outer vest. But in addition to that, we had a riot weapon, a shield, as well as a baton.
And did you have any equipment on her?
I did. I had my normal equipment like a body camera, various less spray, sort of the normal things I would wear for normal control.
You mentioned a body worn camera. Did you have a body worn camera that day on May 21st?
I did.
And did you have an opportunity to review it before coming to court today?
Yes.
And did it appear to be working normally?
Yes.
You testified that you are on the line, Squad 1. Can you start by telling us sort of when you first arrived in the Diag area? Where were you? What did you do?
Sure. When we first arrived, I started at the south end of the Hatcher Library. The encampment was on the north end. So then we formed in our group, the rest of the squads, and we walked to the north side of the Hatcher Library. While we were walking, I could hear Dave Marshall giving a speech through a megaphone. Formed in front of the library.
I'm sorry, can you say that last part a little bit louder?
Then we formed a line in front of the library, the north
end. Where were you facing?
North.
When you say the north end of what? The entire Diag or?
North, I should say the north side of the Hatcher Library.
Okay. What happened then? The officers were shoulder to shoulder, standing sort of as we are trained, as we've trained in the past, to form a police line, while Director Marshall, I could hear on the megaphone, giving a dispersal order. When you say you could hear him, could you hear the words he was saying, or did you just hear his voice or something else? I could hear his voice.
There was some mention about the time. I just wasn't really paying attention to exactly what it was saying.
Why not? What were you paying attention to?
There was a large group forming in front of us of demonstrators, protesters. And there was some of them that started throwing objects in front of us, presumably to stop our advancement.
Objection.
As speculation sustained.
There are objects in front of you and you're trying to move forward. What, if anything, does that do to you?
It struck my ability to.
So what happened next?
I was given the order, we all were given the orders to move forward at a half step. Essentially just means walk slowly forward, not at a full pace, but at a half step.
And let me go back for 1 second. You said there was a large group forming and objects being thrown. Can you tell me what you saw being thrown?
Initially, there were some logs and not sure where they got them, like twigs and
Excuse me one moment.
strong displeasure with DSS in November, several months beforehand. Many of these protesters took over a building called Roofman Building, which my partner was injured.
That's just a hearsay also.
Hey, he asked the question.
Nope. I'm going to allow the answer. You can cross-examine. Go
So,
ahead. Go
so
ahead.
sir, just to
Yeah.
kind of,
What?
So this was happened in Roofman Building several months prior, in which the partner I was with was injured and was off on light duty for several months because she had broken her wrist.
okay, so you're referencing this has to do with social media posts. Were these social media posts from anybody that you see today?
Probably, I don't know.
Okay, so when you say probably, that means you don't know for sure, right? Okay, so it's safe to say that the answer would be no.
Say the question one more time.
That these social media posts you're referencing did not come from anybody who's involved with this case that's in the courtroom today.
The answer is I don't know.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, Officer Wancha. I represent Miss Samantha Lewis. She's the one that was saying, really, Carl, right? All right. You talked that you had met Miss Lewis at a prior occasion before this morning. Is that true?
Correct.
And in that occasion where you had a discussion with Miss Lewis, where was that discussion at?
On the diag, just east of the encampment.
Okay, east of the encampment on the diag, on a date prior to this morning. Is that true?
Correct.
What date, if you remember?
I'd have to look. I don't remember. Maybe a couple of weeks before.
Did you make a note or a police report as a result of this encounter?
There's probably some CAD entry, dispatch entry. I don't.
Was your body worn camera available at that time?
Well, yeah, I should have been wearing it.
Did you preserve that body worn camera footage?
I can't remember. I don't know.
Okay. Now, in the discussion that you had on the prior to this morning occasion where you were talking to Miss Lewis, how was the tone of Miss Lewis in that discussion?
She was very polite.
Very polite. Non-threatening?
Correct.
Non-assaultive?
Correct.
Non-obstructive?
Well, I asked her to have the encampment go back to its original footprint, and that did not happen.
Does that obstruct you in any way? How?
Not doing what I asked.
Okay, not doing what you ask is what your definition of obstruction is?
No, it just obstructed.
Okay, no problem. Did you, on that morning, have an order? Did you give that order to Miss Lewis or to the encampment? Miss Lewis was not in the encampment on that morning, you're saying?
Well, she was part of the encampment. It's my understanding as a law enforcement liaison.
Okay, and did you identify Miss Lewis that day? Did you get a form of government identification from her?
No.
How did you find out Miss Lewis's name then?
There was outside of this jail complex, there was some assembly of her and some other protesters, and it was on Channel 7, one of the news sites, and she was interviewed, and her name was on the bottom of the screen.
Were you given that video by any other officers to review? Where did you see that video?
Occasionally, I would check headlines, UFM related news sites, sometimes Instagram posts that some of the protesters had would put up, and it was in one of those contexts that I saw.
Okay. Now, when you go to this morning, when you were giving your commands to move back, Miss Lewis is shown in the video at having moved back from the original for where the diag was started. Is that correct?
Say again?
In this video, you saw a point where Miss Lewis was standing on top of some elevated object. Is that true? Now, that's further north than from where your original line started to form in the diag. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So the group began to move back. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time that you engaged Miss Lewis, you were much further north up the diag and into the grassy area towards the road at that moment in time. Is that true?
I wouldn't say much further north. The brick section was just behind us, so we were not very far, but we were more north.
Okay. So during that occasion when Miss Lewis can be seen on the camera speaking to you in name, did she hit you with her fist or arms or anything of that nature at that moment in time?
Not that.
Okay. Does the video show that you were battered or wounded at any point by Miss Lewis?
No.
Okay. And the purpose of your command to move back was based off of what?
Based off our need the trespass that was issued by Marshall and our need to clear that.
Did you issue a trespass to Miss Lewis? Did you arrest Miss Lewis? Did at any point in time was Miss Lewis's back heading to was Miss Lewis's back to you? I'm trying to give this question. Give me a moment, please. Was there any moment in time when Miss Lewis's back was to you and she was shoved from behind?
I don't remember doing that.
Did you ever shove Miss Lewis from behind?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Was there a point when Miss Lewis was attempting to walk north and she was assaulted from the back by a police officer?
I'm unaware of that. I did that.
Okay. I have no other questions for this witness.
Mr. Minnick. Yeah, go ahead and turn it on because he's not gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen.
His video is an exhibit, right?
It is, you'll need my.
Yes.
You'll need the exhibit.
Well, I've got, oh, you want me to use the actual exhibit instead of the copy I have?
What are you talking about?
Well, if he's, I just want him to play something and then admit it into evidence.
Well, I haven't admitted, well, we did earlier on, but is it just a copy of the same thing?
I have no idea what he's doing. We haven't talked about it.
That's what I'm doing, is a copy of the same thing. I got it from a link provided by her office.
So just use that one, because by the time you get that one down there, it'll be tomorrow. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You're using.
Yes.
And the timeline should add up, so whatever it is.
Officer, with the court's permission, I'm going to play a short excerpt from your body cam video and then ask a couple questions. Oh. I'm sorry. Need to go back just a little bit further. Pepper spray was used on people in the crowd who were to the left side of the makeshift wall several times. Is that right?
Yes.
And at that point, after the pepper spray was employed, people started to disperse and leave heading out to the north. Isn't that right?
Some people.
And in the clip that we just saw, two people who were moving to the north were pushed down from behind, right? Wrong?
The person in the gray stepping backwards, and then the person I later identified as Lewis was leaning back. Stop sign.
And they were both pushed from behind and fell on their face, right?
They were pushing officers.
Really? That's how you interpret that video clip that we just saw? Okay, well, it's an exhibit. No other questions.
All right, thank you. Ask.
Yes, two questions. This person who you described at long detail in this hard hat is not my, can identify that person as.
Person in the hard hat?
Yes.
Yeah, that was someone who I reading other reports. Sure, it was someone named City.
Okay. And just a yes or no, you made a statement earlier about the dyad. So you acknowledge that there are different definitions of what makes up the dyad.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Okay, no further questions.
Ms. McNulty.
You earlier testified about possibly a CAD entry about your previous connection with the encampment, didn't you?
When I met the person who I later identified as Sammy Lewis, yes.
Right, when you told them it was okay to move back to the brick.
Yes.
Right. Do you regularly log things in a CAD system?
So I communicated on the radio that I was going to make contact with her. So I should say my assumption was someone in dispatch created a CAD code for it.
And is that something that they do normally? And we need to rely on them so we can trust what they say.
Fairly accurate representation.
On that day, were you with any other U of M representative?
I'm just gonna ask for clarification as to what day.
Yes. Why don't we?
I don't think he remembered. I'm asking about the day when he said that he had contact with Miss Lewis.
You're talking about that day that
As
he went.
opposed to me.
Correct.
Got it.
I tried to remember initially when I first encountered, I walked up toward the encampment and met with her. I believe I was by myself. Shortly after that, my supervisor, Sergeant Barron, came to the scene. I believe he also walked out separately to make contact with her, but I wasn't there.
Was there anyone from Student Life
I don't think so.
or CCI?
I don't think so.
But we don't have any documentation, so we don't know.
Other than what might be in the CAD, but I'd have to look that up.
Does this sound familiar? Spoke with 2 liaisons and advised to keep group in the allotted footprint.
Yeah, sounds like something I would try.
Does that sound like a reflection of what was said?
Yes,
So they had to move out of the grass, but they could stay on the brick. Is that correct?
that was the communication that was told to me to that.
Who told you?
I don't remember. So there was, for clarification, there were several officers assigned to the diag to monitor it. It was concerned that they would start expanding their existing size and footprint. I don't remember who was giving the direction.
Several officers assigned to the brick part?
Not the brick, just the diag.
The whole.
Or the encampment that was at the time currently just on the brick.
There were also student life representatives, correct?
I believe there was floating around, walking around.
You didn't video anything with your personal cell phone, did you? Or with a work cell phone?
Body camera, I would assume I had on, because I'm usually pretty diligent with that, but I don't know if it's preserved. I don't know.
Okay. No more questions. Thank you.
Mr. Kucha.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Detective. Good afternoon now. You had a briefing prior to the disbursement of this encampment, is that right?
Yes.
And when did that take place?
That morning, shortly before we went out there.
Was there any discussion before that to plan and discuss how this encampment would be broken up that you were a part of?
Other than we were going to do it at one point, like a couple of weeks prior, maybe a week or two prior, that fell through, but I wasn't involved in any planning.
Okay, so you arrived to work early that morning, and that is when you guys discussed how this was going to take place. Is that fair?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. And as you understood it, Director Marshall was going to be reading a order for people to obey, correct?
Yeah.
And did you understand that that order would include a time frame?
I didn't, but I understood it when I was approaching it. Heard.
Okay. And you heard Director Marshall say that people had 10 minutes to gather their belongings and leave, correct? And at some point, you move in before that 10-minute window had expired, correct?
I believe so.
Now, which came first?
The one that's moved over the top there.
This one here.
Yep. Plug.
Judge, if I could just plug this in to bring up the same video that's already been admitted as an exhibit. Thank you. The same thing. All right. You said at some point the individual in the gray shirt, you saw him throw a chair.
Yeah.
And when you say he threw a chair, that didn't make contact with anybody, correct?
I don't think.
All right. And when you say he threw it, could you describe for us the motion that you remember seeing him throw the chair?
Underhand toss to block our path forward.
You're making an assumption that it's to block your path, correct?
I guess so.
Okay. So you say like an underhand toss, right? And it could also be just moving it out of his way?
Unlikely, because he returned back to the police line after he walked away.
Okay. We're talking about this individual in the gray shirt, correct? Can you see my pointer there or no?
Yes.
All right. And he's got. And I'm at about 6:59 into the video for the record. You see is that the chair you're referring to there? It's like red and gray kind of?
It's hard to tell. I think I'll know more if I see him actually holding it.
All right. And this is, to be clear, this is like a foldable lawn chair, correct?
Yes.
This is not a hard object or anything, correct?
Folding lawn chairs have the metal supports.
But he doesn't fold it up when he throws it, right? Okay. Is that what you're referring to, him throwing the chair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at some point, people back up, correct?
There's not too much, there's some in the back.
All right. And when people move back, they are doing what you wanted them to do, correct? That was your goal in this, correct?
Yeah, our goal was to clear them out.
Okay. So when people are moving backwards, they are complying with your order, correct?
Not the order to get out of the dive.
The order is move back, correct?
In that immediate moment, sure.
Right? And when somebody moves backwards, that is complying with your order, right?
Malicious compliance, not full compliance.
I'm not trying to play games here. If you tell somebody moves back and they move back, that is compliance, correct?
So the purpose.
It's a yes or no question.
Sure.
Right? How else can somebody comply with the order of move back?
Then they stop and then they'll move back again.
All right. Now, when somebody has their back to you and is taking steps away from you, you've gained compliance, correct?
Say again.
Somebody turns their back to you and is moving away from you. You have gained compliance with your order of move back, correct?
Yes.
All right. There's no reason to shove somebody in the back, correct?
That's what they do.
All right. You wouldn't do that, right? Did you shove people in the back?
Don't recall that.
Do you recall shoving people in the back and knocking them face down on the ground?
I don't recall that.
I'm going to go to about 11:53 of his body cam. You see this individual in the gray shirt here?
Yeah.
He'd just been pepper sprayed, correct?
I would assume so. I'm not 100% sure.
You see him stumbling and wiping his eyes, right?
Did you say so?
I'm not asking if I say so. Are you able to tell? Do you recall that or no?
I would know better. You mind a little bit more and you know he actually got sprayed. In
Sure. You see him there?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you deploy pepper spray yourself or no? In your training, the time to deploy pepper spray is, if pepper spray is a defensive tactic, correct?
Can be.
Right? It is to protect yourself from an individual who may be attacking you or causing you harm, correct?
Or others. Yeah.
Or others, right? It is not something to be used simply to gain compliance. Is that fair?
That can be fair.
Right? In your training, it is to protect yourself and others, right?
Sure. Yes.
Somebody who's simply disobeying should not be pepper sprayed, right?
Well, it's also used in large group, like riot control to separate people. Again,
Is it
or the ultimate goal of safety.
right? And here, this individual has his back to you, correct? In the gray shirt?
You just walked forward. So back up.
What? His back is to you, correct?
Yes, back to
Right? And then you shoved him in the back, right? While his back was towards you, you say he walked towards you?
Yeah, he walked backwards into the entrance.
Okay. And now that caused him to turn around and he turns around again, correct? Now he's again facing away from you, correct?
Yes.
Right? And he's shoved face down on top of somebody else who's already on the ground, correct?
Yeah, that wasn't me, but those appears.
That's what happened to him, right? Okay. Now, detective, the directive was for them to leave this area, correct? All of it, right? Okay. What area was it that was supposed to go through some maintenance and cleaning?
The diag.
The brick area?
But then, like I said earlier, there was also expansion into a lot of the grassy space.
So whatever area people were protesting, that all needed to be maintained and cleaned at that. Is that the goal here?
Yeah.
Wherever they decided to protest, you're saying was encompassed in the area being maintained and cleaned.
Say more.
Whether they were protesting on the bricks, then that area needs to be maintained and cleaned, right?
Yeah.
Right. And if they're protesting on the grass, that area needs to be maintained and cleaned as well, correct? Right. So wherever they went, you're saying was part of the area that needed to be maintained and cleaned, correct?
Yes.
All right. Simply put, the administration wanted them gone, correct? The administration and the directive that you were operating under were to get these people out of there, right?
Yeah, they needed to leave so that it could be cleaned and the order restored to the diag.
Okay.
Required some individuals to come in to clean.
Okay. There was no cleaning crew there that morning, right?
They showed up. I'm not sure where they were stationed, but
Okay. You didn't see anybody there when you were going to disperse these protesters, right?
no.
All right. Now, you said the only place they could go was across the street, correct? You wanted them to cross the street and leave.
Yes, it was mentioned before. I don't recall if they went to east or west, if those spaces were open still or not. But certainly just northbound, whether it's northeast, northwest. No.
Okay, so northbound where the street was, cross that street and leave.
That would be a direction maybe.
Right. Okay. Now, did the Department of Public Safety or the police close that road to traffic?
At one point, I think it was closed.
At what point was it?
Later on, I think when they got closer to the road.
Can I ask what street you're talking about?
What street are we talking about there?
Can you click on the street?
The street. There's a street behind them, correct?
Yes.
Right. What is the name of that street? I'm more familiar with it.
North of the diag?
Yes.
It's North University, actually.
Okay. So there on North University, that's the only street, right? There's North University Avenue is the street that would be facing north.
Yeah,
right?
First Street.
Okay. You wanted them to cross that street and leave, correct?
Or walk on the sidewalk. There's many ways they could do it.
But the road itself was not closed to traffic for them to be able to cross it, right?
I don't think initially, but there's crosswalks right there.
Okay. Taking other questions.
Mr. Hayner.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Officer Wancha.
Actually,
We're a member of Squad 1, correct? And the officer that testified previously was a member of Squad 2. How many squads were there?
good question. I want to say 4.
Okay. How many members in each squad?
Like 7 to 10, I think.
All right. So would you say there was approximately 40 officers that participated in this situation?
Double check, but that sounds roughly accurate.
All right. You don't know for sure? Okay. What was the stated goal
the operation?
To remove the encampment.
All right. I thought you said something about cleaning.
Well, I believe that was the other gentleman who mentioned that, but that ultimately that was also performed.
Okay, so who wanted this this encampment removed?
I was told to, I was told to be there. We tried to do it like a week or two before, got canceled. Those aren't my decisions. I'm making those.
All right, so you didn't make the decision and you don't know the reason why the encampment wanted to be, but why somebody wanted the encampment to be busted up?
Other than assumptions, but nothing like us told.
All right. Well, the director that day was Marshall?
Yes.
What's his position?
No, now he's like a director. He may have been an associate director at the time, but he's with the DPSS, Division of Public Safety Security.
Okay. And how many meetings did you all have in preparation for this disbursement?
We had the briefing that day. And then we met, like I said, like a week or two before, sort of prepared to do the encampment removal. That I got canceled. And, I can't remember if we really talked much about the tactics. I don't think we did that the week or two before. But that morning we did.
All right.
We got our kind of sort of practiced in our squads just to get the formation.
So how long before 5:30 a.m. did you all meet?
Sure, it's written down somewhere.
Was it an hour? Was it 3 hours? Was it?
2 hours.
Okay. Was anybody from the administration there?
So
Do you know who that was?
I'm gonna ask him to clarify what he means by administration, because there's
which
different-
administration?
There's different administrations per.
Administration of the university.
oh, I think it was all DPSS.
Okay. But you didn't have any direct contact with any of the administration of University of Michigan? Okay. Now you said you've been with the department since 2017, correct?
Correct.
Had you ever, during that period of time that you've been with the department, ever been called to disperse an encampment prior to this?
Not per se. It was demonstrators who handled the president's office for climate change 2019.
That's the president's office. I'm talking about the DIAG. All right. And that DIAG is public property, correct? All right. When you were briefed prior to deploying to the DIAG, Officer or Director Marshall indicated to you all that he would be giving verbal warnings, correct? Or verbal instructions?
I don't remember. I don't remember if he said this is what I'm doing. I certainly knew that once I started approaching and could hear him giving the directions. So like beforehand, I don't recall him saying this is what I'm doing. Just like, hey guys.
So you didn't have an understanding prior to going to the DIAG that that there would be warnings or at least instructions to the people?
Yes, I assumed, and if I wasn't told specifically, I would assume we would, because that would be consistent with what we don't.
Well, wasn't that the goal, hopefully, to get them to leave peacefully?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
All right, and while you were there, and that's early in the morning, correct? Yeah. And most of them were probably asleep when you arrived, correct?
I was surprised that there was several that were near the steps of the Hatcher Library. We walked there.
Okay, so several, correct? And when you say several, that's probably less than 10, correct?
Around 10.
All right, and there were how many people approximately in the encampment? Total?
You mean once we got there, or like immediately?
Well, once you realize, once these incident occurred, I mean, clearly there were dozens of people there, correct? All right. So most of them were asleep when you got there, correct?
Speculation as to whether they're asleep awake or came.
Sustained. All right. So in any event, at some point, you all mobilized, correct? All right. Now, when you say there was 4 squads, did you line up all together in a straight line? Is that how this works?
I was certainly lined up in a straight line, in the first line, shoulder to shoulder. I don't recall if that was all 4. If there was 4 squads, if I remember correctly, I don't recall all 4 lined up, or if it was a second line. Or now that I'm thinking about it, a couple of squads may have been like to arrest people if they got behind the line. But from my perspective, where I certainly was shoulder to shoulder front line.
Okay. And what were the instructions given if you heard them?
Describe the instructions that were told to me.
Correct.
To move forward.
And to the protesters.
So I was instructed to, once we were in that line.
Yes.
We move forward at a half step.
All right. Prior to moving forward, were instructions given by Director Marshall?
Yes.
And what was the nature of those instructions?
Like a trespass warrant.
And how long were they given to disperse?
I don't know. When we were approaching, I could hear the megaphone going. And so I don't know what he said.
All right. So you wouldn't dispute that the people that were part of the encampment were told, look, you have 10 minutes to vacate the area.
They were told, yeah, sometime.
All right. And you'd agree then that time limit didn't expire before you all started to move forward, correct?
Based off my understanding, that's correct.
All right. So in less than 10 minutes, even though they were told they had 10 minutes to disperse, law enforcement moved forward on the protesters, correct?
Because of the instructions that they were putting in front of us.
Okay. So I know I saw the videos. Yeah. So basically they were placing things between you and them, correct? Nobody threw anything at you though, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But it was a water bottle.
Right. Well, specifically with Mr. Siddiqui, my client, in the video, it shows him placing a bicycle between the protesters and you, correct? He doesn't throw anything, does he?
I don't recall.
Okay. And with respect to the chair that he placed on the side, that wasn't anywhere near law enforcement, was it? Well, you said you think. You want to, do you know whether or not it was? Anytime. And so I don't want to waste the judge's time, but maybe we have a difference of opinion. I saw him place the.
I'm gonna object.
Okay. Do you disagree with him? Do you disagree that he placed the chair on the ground?
He placed it in a manner similar to the other client, where it was in front of us and it was.
It was off to the side.
I'm not asking that he allow the witness to finish his answer.
Go ahead.
Finish your answer, sir.
Place it in front of us in a way that prevented us from walking forward without handling that chair, moving it aside.
All right. So you're saying, fine. Did you'd agree then that he did not throw this chair, correct?
Not at us, or like, I would agree that he didn't throw it to strike us, but rather to in front of us to prevent her.
So what you saw was him throw the chair between you and the police?
In similar.
Between you and the protesters.
In similar manner, the other gentleman.
All right.
It was like an underhand toss.
All right. Now, as you moved forward in unison, there were at least a couple of rows of people, correct?
Protesters.
People expressing their opinion, you can call them protesters.
Well, I don't want to get into the semantics of the word. I think the question the officer is, are you talking about police officers or are you talking about, because you just used people?
Protesters. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there was rows, but there were people together.
Okay, and I saw your body camera. You all moved forward basically in half steps or so until you came up upon the protesters, correct?
Yes.
The protesters never moved forward, correct?
No, there was moments in which they.
Well, specifically with respect to my client, did he ever move forward? Mr. Siddiqui?
Well, yeah, because initially when he put the bike down and we were giving commands to move back, he walked back toward the center, then returned back to the police line with that chair.
Okay. You indicated, or at least what I saw in the video, maybe you disagree. There was like a tent or something behind these protesters, correct?
There were tents on the diag.
Okay. And there was like some type of structure where my client, Mr. Siddiqui, was, or don't you remember that?
I'm not sure what.
Would you mind playing that for him? No problem. The judge saw it. Okay, when you were pushing forward, you actually pushed these protesters into that structure. They had nowhere to go. Isn't that correct?
I'm not sure what structure.
All right. I'm talking about the time when you say that my client touched your baton. Okay. He actually had nowhere to go at that point based on the video, correct?
I would disagree.
Okay. Where could he have gone? And what was north? And was he supposed to just fall into the tent?
It was a canopy tent, so it was only the group tent structure, so you just walk.
Okay. All right. You'd agree then he did not move forward, correct? All right. Nothing else.
Any redirect?
Mr. Peter asked you if there were any items on you or the police, and you started to answer, but then weren't allowed to finish. So I'm going to ask you to finish your answer.
Throughout the incident, there was moments in which you might call that handcuffs, chairs, but then specifically I recall a water bottle being thrown. Once we got past the brick portion, water striking on us, the bottle. It may have struck someone, but didn't strike me, but it came close. So that was one of the incidents that I was referring to.
Anything else that you recall?
I don't.
Okay. Between the end of the diag, North University is the northern border of the diag, fair to say.
Sorry.
Are there sidewalks before you come to the road?
There are.
So people could go east and west along that sidewalk, correct?
Correct.
Wouldn't even have to go into the road, correct?
Correct.
I believe you testified there were crosswalks.
Correct.
One of the attorneys was asking you about the other times, there have been other times since you've worked at the university where you were asked to remove an encampment. You mentioned another incident at the president's home, and then he specifically referred you to the diet. In the time that you worked at the University of Michigan, have there ever been tents and people living in those tents on the diet for any period of time?
Not that I recall. I think at one point someone tried to put the dog tent.
A dog tent?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything in your employment with university like this?
No,
Scope. I have nothing further.
Any questions based upon those redirect questions from any counsel?
I have a couple, just based on the last few.
In your time at U of M, have you ever witnessed any other protests in the diag?
Sure.
Okay. Do you recall any?
I guess it depends what you call a protest, but there's usually regularly scheduled like hash bash events and so forth.
Any, I guess, political speech movements?
Sure, yes.
Okay. And what makes this, I guess, this May 2024 event different than those?
First event,
Yeah, of 2024.
different.
Yes.
I think it's 30 days long. So that was one difference.
Okay.
Others too, I'm sure. You need to think about it.
To your knowledge, have you ever been, has there been any other scheduled cleanings around those other protests?
Not protests, sometimes there's cleanings because people vandalize the installed in the center of diag, vandalized.
Got it. But I guess during those other, I guess, protests, I'd call them, you were order to dismantle them like you were this one, correct?
Right, I don't recall something of this scope.
Got it. And when you say the scope, you mean because it was, I guess not the scope. It was the fact that this went on for 30 days, which was what you believe caused this to be dismantled, correct?
Yeah, I think there was some other reasons too. I mean, the 30 days, the disruption it caused, the risks to the community, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. When you say disruption and risk to community, are you aware of any sort of violence that took place within this encampment prior to any sort of police disbursement?
There was some, I don't know if violence is the right word, but maybe between, I know there was a flag incident, where some flags were destroyed. Sort of like counter protests.
Got it. So nothing from any individuals in this room, right?
I don't know.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Anybody else?
I actually have some questions. I'm gonna try to make this quick. You said that water bottles and things were thrown at you. Do you know if anyone in this room threw that at you?
I don't know for sure. At first I thought it was your client, but it wasn't with water bottle. You just have to be nearby. So if someone else who like
Don't guess. It's just, I don't want you to guess.
I don't think.
Okay, and you stated that on the follow-up that the students could have left on the sidewalk, et cetera. But wasn't the directive just to move back?
Well, the directive was, as was explained by Marshall.
No, I'm asking you, when you guys are pushing them back, you're just saying move back. Is that correct?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, you never said move northeast,
I did not say that.
move northwest, move to University Avenue. You said move back. I just want to make sure what you were saying was just to move back.
That's the words I said.
Okay, no further questions.
Ready? None? All right. You may step down. Thank you, sir. All right. 1 o'clock. We're thereabouts. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take a lunch break. Actually, because I'm hungry. But anyway, why don't we come back? Make sure everybody's ready to go at 2:50. Yes, 2:15. Okay, on the nose. All right. Thank you. Court's going to be in recess.
Back on the record in the case of Keen Shapiro et al. All counsel is now present. Never again. All right. You may call your next witness.
Before I call Sergeant Justin Barrett to the stand, and as they're getting the next witness, Your Honor, I had an opportunity to speak with counsel, and it's my understanding that for purposes of preliminary exam only, that he is willing to stipulate to the identification of his client, the defendant Assad Siddiqui. The court recalls, and this would be identification in relationship to Officer Blancha's testimony, identifying an individual with the white construction hat, and the placing of the bike. And I can show the court the play points of the video. I'm referencing it.
No, I recall.
And the arm of the baton. So that counsel is going to stipulate that that is his client.
All right.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You solemnly swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. See, state, spell your first and last name for the record, please.
Justin Harris.
All right, you may inquire.
Thank you. Mr. How are you employed?
I'm a police sergeant at the University of Michigan.
And how long have you been a police officer?
I've been with U of M for 14 years and a police officer for 16 altogether.
And were you working on the date of May 21st, 2024 in the early morning hours?
Yes, I was.
And were you assigned to assist in the restoration and cleanup operation of the University of Nyack?
Yes, I was.
And University of Michigan Nyack, where is that located?
Actual address, I believe, is 913 South University. The Nyack is central campus hub of Ann Arbor campus. It goes from State Street, South University, to North University, to all the way to Church Street, so it's square.
And the day in the morning of May 21st, what was your role or assignment that day?
I was assigned a special detail on the DIAC, as you stated, which efforts to remove any protesters that refuse to disperse of the DIAC, and there's also restoration and cleanup efforts.
And how were you dressed that morning?
I was in full police uniform, our Class Bs, which had my badge and name tape on the front, police patches on the sides, big police sign on the back.
And did you have body worn camera?
Yes, I did.
And was it working that day?
Yes, it was.
Did you have an opportunity to review it before you came to court today?
Yes.
Did you do a report in regards to this incident?
I did not.
Now, were you assigned to a particular squad, if you will?
Squad 1.
And what did that mean? What was your job duty then?
Squad 1 is the front lines of the formation, and we are the first ones to attempt to move the crowd north out of the bag.
And when you first arrived in the Diag area on May 21st, where did you go and then what did you do first?
So we arrived about 5:40 a.m. on the south side of Hatcher Library. From there, we moved to the north side of Hatcher to the front steps. We got in line formation and then waited for our directions to move forward. During that time, I observed the crowds start to throw objects towards us and set up barriers such as bikes, tables, chairs. From that time, we got the directive to move forward, the attempt to have voluntary compliance for the crowd to move north. Out of that, we had open egress, unobstructed egress north. From there, we got the directive to move forward, and we attempted to move the crowd northbound.
And prior to you coming to or walking to and lining up at the bottom of the steps of the Hatcher Library, did you hear anything?
I heard a dispersal order being read.
Do you know who that was being read by?
Director Dave Marshall.
Now, when you said you heard, did you hear the exact words? Did you hear his voice or something else?
I didn't hear the exact words. I heard his voice. I heard him giving orders to leave the diet.
And when you were instructed to move forward, tell me about that. How did you move forward?
Once we got the directive to move forward, we moved forward slowly, methodically. We would move 10 or 15 steps. We'd stop and we'd do that until we encountered any type of crowd of protesters within this first area.
I didn't catch that last part. I'm sorry.
We would stop once we met with the crowd.
Did there come a point in time when a person grabbed your baton?
Yes, about 11 and a half minutes into my body cam footage. There's a subject who was not leaving the area. I tended to move the subject with my right baton, and that's when that subject grabbed my baton. He curled his left arm with the baton, and then also grabbed the baton with his right hand.
And can you describe what that person was wearing, what that person looked like?
The subject was a white male, had brown, shaggy hair, was wearing glasses, a mask, a white mask that covered his nose, mouth, and chin. He was wearing a gray t-shirt, khaki colored shorts and tennis shoes. If you start at 11:53, you can see the right hand under the thumb.
Do you see that person that you described, play point for council's, it's 10 minutes, 47 seconds. Do you see that person, who later grabbed your baton in this still shot?
Yes, I do.
Of your, well, let me ask you this, you reckon? Hold on, sorry. Get your body camera. Do you see that person in the still video?
Yes, I do.
And can you describe where he is and what he's wearing?
He's on the left side of the video, gray t-shirt, khaki colored shorts, has a black wristwatch.
Are you talking about the person that I?
Yes.
And Sergeant Aaron, is this your body worn camera video?
Yes.
Is that your baton officer?
Yes.
Sergeant, excuse me.
Can you tell us what timestamp you're at?
11:41. And what, if anything, are you saying at this point in time and doing, and what, if anything, is that individual doing in response?
So as soon as we started moving north, we were getting I was giving verbal commands to move back continuously through the whole process. You see my baton as an extension of my arms to move the crowd back.
And what, if anything, were specifically at this point in time, the man you described on the, I'm going to say left side of the screen, doing, if anything, in response?
He's actively resisting and not moving northbound. He hasn't quite grabbed it yet.
Now, you just saw something that happened real quick where you turned. Can you describe what happened?
Yes, immediately when I felt the subject to grab out my baton, from training, we're taught to do a forceful, quick circle motion with our baton, an attempt to gain control of it, in which I did.
Can you kind of demonstrate, or what do you mean by that? What
So
did he do and what did you do in
So
response?
if we're thrusting with our baton, move the subject's back, and somebody takes a hold of it, you can move a half circle or a full circle, which will remove their hand from it.
And did that do that?
Yes.
But you mentioned, did he, I don't want to put words in my mouth. I thought I heard you say he grabbed it.
Yeah, so he had his left arm curled under the baton was right here, and then grabbed it with his right hand. And that's when I did the half circle motion to gain control of it.
So he had both his, well, not hands, I'm sorry, both his limbs, meaning arms or So if I understand your testimony correctly, he had took his
Left arm.
left arm underneath it and then grabbed it with the other hand.
Yeah, because you can see the hand in the video at, you stop it at 11:53. At this point, you can just hit start and stop pretty quick, you should be able to do it. Right there.
I have no further questions of this witness at this time.
Mr. Rock, cross-examination.
Your Honor, may I yield my time till the end?
Why do you do that to me?
Because I like you guys.
I can tell. Mr. Markland,
I have no questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Minnick,
No questions.
Saskia,
No questions, Your Honor.
McNulty,
Questions?
Hmm?
No questions.
no questions. All right. Mr. Kuja,
I do have some questions, John.
go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, officer. As you understood it, you were there to clear out the protesters due to a maintenance and cleaning operation?
We were given details to clear out any protesters who did not disperse from the lawful orders. After that was taking place, there was a restoration and cleanup effort going on.
Okay, so as far as you understood it, the purpose of telling everybody to leave was a restoration and cleaning operation, correct? Did you understand where that restoration and cleaning operation was to take place? Okay, and so if they left the center of the diag, then presumably that would not interfere with the maintenance and cleanup operation, correct?
No.
How so?
So if we would just move out the protesters just north of the brick area, that was too close for the safety of everybody involved. For the cleanup and restoration efforts. From past experience, I know we were worried about additional subjects coming from all over the area, which would outnumber us pretty quickly.
You said the concern was that the center of the diag needed to be cleaned and maintained, right? And so if they leave that area, your concern wasn't that it couldn't be cleaned, but that perhaps more individuals would come and make it unreasonable.
It's the safety of everybody involved. We didn't know what was in the tents. We didn't know if there was booby traps. We didn't know if any of the subjects.
I understand you could speculate to all sorts of things being in there, but you didn't have any, nothing you observed indicated that there was anything like that, correct?
The crowd.
Sir, I'm going to ask you some questions that can be answered yes or no. All right. You had nothing to indicate that there were any booby traps inside of these tents, correct? Right. In the end, when the place was dispersed, no booby traps were found, correct? All right. Now, once the area, was there any area there where these people could have stayed and expressed their political opinions?
Yes, outside of the diag area.
All right. So the entire diag area, you wanted them out of there, right?
The whole diag area was cordoned off.
The brick area as well as the grass area to the north, correct? You wanted them to leave, go across that street, right? Is it University Street?
That's North University.
Right. You wanted them to go ahead and cross North University Street and get out of that whole area. Fair statement? Now, at some point you indicated that your baton was grabbed, correct?
Correct.
You know where that?
For the cable,
Look for that cable, Judge.
right there.
Oh.
So for purposes of the record, this is the same body cam.
This is going to be his body cam that was just played by the Attorney General. This is at 11:45. I stopped it at 11:46. Was that you that deployed pepper spray?
No.
You saw that the individual was pepper sprayed though, correct?
Right.
Counsel, in terms of volume control, it has to come from your device.
Oh, okay.
So just so you know.
You indicated that at 11:53, you believe that this individual in the gray shirt grabbed your baton, correct? He said he hooked his arm around your baton, right? And so this is after he's been pepper sprayed, correct? You see that right as he's pepper sprayed, he's kind of stumbling around, correct? As he's pepper sprayed, he's kind of stumbling around. Is that a fair statement? And at this point, at 11:51, do you see how you hooked your baton around his arm?
I would say I hooked it. And he has began to curl it.
You see how he's got his arm up protecting his face? I'm gonna play it again for you. Right there. Doesn't your baton go over his arm and hook around it? Would you agree with that, with me, that that's what that video shows from your body cam?
I'm not looking at
You,
it's a horizontal thrust, which I did the whole time, and his ways are positioned. He ends up curling his left arm.
you would agree with me that the baton, you extend the baton to make contact with him and not the other way around, correct? The orders that are given are for them to move back, correct?
Right.
Now, if someone turns around and is walking away from you, that would be compliance with your order to move back, correct? There would certainly be no reason to push someone with your baton if they are not even facing you and walking away from you, correct?
They had 11 minutes to disperse the area.
The question is, if they are turning around and walking away from you, they are now in compliance, correct? Okay. And if they are complying, there is no reason to use physical force on them, correct?
In that situation, there are people coming from all over the place. And
I'm not asking about other people and what other people may have been doing. I'm saying if an individual has turned around and is walking away from you, there is no reason to use physical force against him, correct?
disagree.
All right. Even if they are complying with your order, you think you using physical force on such an individual complying with your order is justified. Is that your answer? You think it is justified to use physical force against an individual who is walking away from you and complying with your order. Is that right?
Justified in using force necessary. My whole body cam footage, which I stand.
That is not my question, though. My question is, do you think it is justified to use physical force against someone who has turned around and walking away in compliance with your order?
Judge, I'm gonna object because that.
I'm gonna I'll sustain the objection.
Thank you. A hypothetical question.
Thanks, I'll sustain the objection. You don't need to keep talking. Next question.
Very well. Did you shove individuals as they were walking away from you?
I did multiple horizontal thrusts through that whole 58 minutes of my body cam.
Here, you shove the individual away, correct? In the gray shirt? Okay, and now he is walking away from you, correct? He's just been pepper sprayed about 10 seconds before this, right? And we're talking about this individual in the gray shirt who's wiping his face. He is not facing you, correct? Yeah, he is shoved there, right?
He was moved back as we were given the orders to proceed northbound.
You moved him back with your baton, even though he wasn't even facing you, right?
Correct.
And here, he's shoved yet again on top of other individuals who have already been shoved to the ground, correct? And he wasn't facing you at that point either, correct?
Did you rewind the video? Are you saying that that was me that did that? Because there's multiple people who were using the same baton, so if you would have to replay the video.
Very well. The baton right in front of the camera is you, correct? Because this is your body cam. Here, he was shoved by your baton, correct?
Here? No. That was coming from my left side.
Okay, so you're saying there's another baton to your left?
Multiple times on my right hand.
Okay. You'd agree with me that your baton made contact there, right? Back it up just a second. You believe that's your baton making contact with the individual in the gray shirt or no? Or if you can't tell, you can't tell.
Well, at this point,
Counsel, give the time at which you're referring to, because I want the record to be clear. From the court's perspective, I'll just say this. After the one individual goes down and then the individual in the gray shirt goes down, it does not look like it is the sergeant's baton.
Okay. I'm at 12:42 into his body cam video, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a thrust by you that went on the young lady with the red keffiyeh, as well as the individual in the gray shirt. Is that right?
That was my baton on the right.
And then at that point, somebody to your left shoves the individual in the gray shirt. Right. That is not you. Do you know who that individual was that was to your left? The individual in the gray shirt never swung at you, correct?
Correct.
He never shoved you in any way, right?
Correct.
Are you saying where we paused it at, I believe it was 11:43. 53. Is this here where you say he used some sort of force against you?
Started to, yes, you can see his left arm go from there, and then a split second he curls up, and then he uses his right arm. His right hand to grab on the baton, because if you slow motion or if you start stopping, you can actually see it.
Okay. And we're in agreement that about 5 or 6 seconds before this incident, before this specific part of the video, he'd just been pepper sprayed, correct?
Correct.
And How many times in your years as a police officer have you deployed pepper spray?
Handle.
You'd agree with me that it's a natural reaction to want to wipe that away from your face, correct?
Everybody reacts differently.
Have you had somebody be pepper sprayed and not immediately try to wipe it off their face?
Yes.
The purpose of the pepper spray is to burn your eyes, correct?
Being compliance.
By having a sensation on the individual's eyes, correct?
Correct.
That's how you're going to gain compliance. Fair? Right. And the pepper spray itself is to be used to defend yourself, correct?
Yes.
That's what you're taught in your use of force, correct?
For Michigan law, it's defensive spray. Yes.
It's a defensive spray. It is not simply to get somebody to listen to you, right?
They had active aggression, which we deployed. Pepper spray. I didn't deploy pepper spray.
My question to you is, the pepper spray is to be used purely for defense, not just to gain compliance, right?
The pepper spray that was deployed was the result of the active aggression.
I'm not asking you about what happened here. I'm asking you about your training. You are trained to use pepper spray to defend yourself or others, correct?
It's the totality of circumstances and depending on against us is more of the pepper spray or any kind of force. I can't speak on the officers who deployed the pepper spray. I didn't deploy.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you about when you are trained that the use of pepper spray is justified. As a police officer, it is when force is used against you to defend yourself or others,
Counsel,
correct?
He's already answered the question.
He's not.
So, yes, he has. You may not like his answer, but he has answered it. So move on.
I will. In this incident, he had been pepper sprayed, and about 5 seconds later, he's got his arms up, correct? And as his arms are up, you take your baton. You take your baton over his arm toward his elbow, correct? All right. Thank you. No other questions.
Your Honor, may I ask a few questions up on things you asked about? I'm very sorry.
You guys, I give everybody their opportunity. I will come back around to you, Mr. Hyder.
I have no questions, sir.
Mr. Murad, any questions?
No questions.
I will allow you, counsel. Go ahead.
Did you just testify that you didn't know who was to your left in the horizontal line of officers?
At the moment, I don't recall who was on my left. Started with certain officers here and there, and then as we move forward, certain positions where officers were here and there.
Right before you marched in, do you know who was to your left?
At one point.
Right before you began to,
Single file line from the south side to the north side, then we got line formation.
line formation, please. Who was to your left when you were in the line formation?
I don't know.
Does the name Mark West ring a bell to you?
Yes.
Was he an officer?
Yes.
Was he in the mobile field force with you?
He was on duty that day, yes.
Was he part of your squad?
I don't recall. I was in the squad leader.
Did you receive any reports from him? Did he report any use of force or any injuries?
I don't recall.
Is there anything that would help you refresh your recollection? With looking
I
at
know Officer West was there that day. I know that he ended up at the end on the left-hand side of me. But at that moment, the counselor asked who was on my left. I don't recall who was there.
Okay. But do you recall whether he reported an injury or medical incident. You didn't write a report in this case, did you?
Okay.
So it'd be important to rely on documents.
My whole incident was recorded via body cam footage. We were advised certain stipulations constituted report that day and some did not.
You had permission not to write a report.
We were advised certain people, if you did certain things involved in the arrest team and so on. I don't recall the stipulations, but some were reports and some not. But all my actions, again, were accounted for on my body cam footage from the moment I got there to the moment all the protesters departed.
Who particularly would give you those permissions or directives about writing a report? Who was that?
And I don't recall who gave it that day.
Why didn't you, what was your reason for not writing one?
I'm going to object this to relevance, and at this point.
What is the relevance?
I'll withdraw it. No further questions.
Any redirect?
Just briefly. After the individual took your baton and then grabbed it with his other hand, and you made the maneuver that you did, that individual didn't leave the area, did he?
Or he did not.
And in fact, when I saw, he linked back up arms with people. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Anything else? Just so that we can get this out of the way, you weren't required to write a report, is that correct?
Sorry,
You were not required to write a report?
correct.
All right, and it was only certain types of things, as I'm to understand your testimony, that would have required you then to follow up with a report.
Correct. And I don't recall exactly what the stipulations were. I was giving an example of the arrest team, but
Okay. And of all of your interactions that day, none of those, whatever they were, rose to the level where you needed to write a report. Is that correct? All righty. Thank you. Any questions based upon the court's questions? Having none, you may step down. Thank you. You may call your next witness.
What do you call officers? Smith.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
See, thanks for your first and last name for the record.
Tyler Smith, TYLER,
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Where do you employ, sir?
at the University of Michigan Police Department
In what capacity?
as a police officer
How long have you been a police officer?
since September 2023.
I direct your attention to May 21st of 2024 in the early morning hours. Were you working on a day at that time?
I was.
And were you assigned to assist in the restoration and cleanup operation of the University of Michigan diet?
I was.
What was your role or assignment that day?
I was assigned to squad 2, the front line.
And what did that mean? What was your assignment for duties that day?
My assignment was to get people off of the diag so that we could restore it to how it was previously.
And what were you wearing?
I was wearing my full patrol uniform along with some riot gear. I had a riot helmet and a top with me. But my patrol uniform consists of patches that say police on the side. I had a badge, a nameplate, and a gun on my head as well.
And you got a back?
Yes, I had a police backer on the back that says police.
Did you have body worn camera?
I did.
And was it working that day?
It was.
Did you have an opportunity to review it before coming to court to testify today?
I did.
And did it appear to be working normally?
It did.
Now, when you first arrived that morning in the area of the diag, general area of the diag, where did you first go? Or where did you first appear?
We were under the Hatcher overhang on the south side of Hatcher.
And you talk about the Hatcher Graduate Library?
Correct.
And what did you do there and what did you do then next?
We all lined up under the overhang at Hatcher, and then we then in front of Hatcher on the north side of the steps.
And was there anything being said or anything you could hear at any point in time while you were waiting to go line up walking in or lining up at the bottom of the steps?
Yeah, while on the steps, I did hear, what appeared to be a dispersal order. I specifically recall hearing, 1 minute till second warning.
Did you recognize the voice of the person that was giving that dispersal order?
I did.
Who was it?
Andrew Marshall.
Who was he at the time?
He is an associate director.
And did there come a point in time when during that order being given that you noticed things happening?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
There was multiple people that were in a line in front of us, and they were placing sticks, logs, cinder blocks, rocks, planks, tables, and chairs in front of us, create a barrier between officers and themselves.
And so what happened next?
We were told to march forward at a half step.
So what did you do?
I marched forward at a half step.
And what does that mean? What did that entail? Can you describe how you move forward?
Yeah, so it's taking a half step and then using our baton to create space. And as soon as we are able to have that space, we occupy the space of our body.
And is there a particular way that you were holding your baton and doing what you just described?
Yeah, I was putting 2 hands in front of my chest and pushing it out. Yeah.
And what, if anything, did you observe any people doing at that time as you were beginning to move forward?
As I was beginning to move forward, I observed multiple people begin to chant multiple things, as well as link arms that appeared to maybe not move back to our verbal commands of move back.
Did there come a point in time where you came into contact with a woman during your moving forward?
Yes, there was.
First of all, officer, do you recognize this as your body on camera?
Yes, I did.
Now, I shot this at play point 17:15. That's just over 17 minutes in of your body cam. Where are you located on the diag at this point in time?
In the center of the diag, but just north of the direct center of it, just north of the bricks.
Okay. And is that a flagpole?
It is.
So this is somewhere between South University, north of Hatcher Library, but south of North University. Is that my understanding?
That is correct.
Is that the female that you came in contact with?
It is.
And how did that happen? I mean, we saw the part of the video, but was that she at some point directly in front of you?
Yes, she was.
And what were you doing and saying, if anything, and what, if anything, did she do or say in response?
I was true to my horizontal baton thrust while giving verbal commands to move back.
Did she comply moving back?
No, she did not.
Did there come a point in time where you instructed by Sergeant Felties to arrest her?
Yes, there was a point in time.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I observed the female here moving down the line, going to officers saying, "You're so tough, you are so tough." So at a point in time when she failed to abide by my verbal commands to move back, I heard Sergeant Feltes say, "Bring her in." So then I grabbed her arm with my hands and attempted to bring her into the arrest team.
Do you see that person in court today?
I do.
Would you please point to her and describe something she's wearing?
Yeah, it's gonna be the female back there. Looks like some checkered pattern. Thing on her chest. Maybe black and white.
What?
So it's like I don't know if it's a dress or if it's not the actual scarf, but
Are you for?
has the green hair.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that this witness is identified defendant Samantha Lewis.
Without objection, record so reflect.
So you testified that you heard Sergeant Feltes, was he your squad commander?
He was.
To bring her in, and you testified that you grabbed her arm.
Correct.
Where was your body in relation to her body, and what happened next?
My body was on the south side, and she was north of me, just ahead of me. So I grabbed her arm, and then another subject that later was found out identified as Willow. I used her body to create space between me and Lewis.
What do you mean?
So she took up space, so I was not able to bring Lewis towards me and towards the arrest team.
When you say she, who are you referring to?
Willow.
Okay. So Willow did what exactly?
Took space between me and the arrestee.
How did she take space?
By using her body. So she walked into the space that I was trying to pull Lewis into.
So she got in between the two of you?
That's correct.
Do you see the person that you learned her name later was Willow in court today?
I do.
Could you please point to her, describe something she's wearing?
Yeah, it looks like a pink undershirt.
Did you point? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Pink undershirt and
it looks like a dark blue top.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that this witness is identified as the defendant, Brianna Willow.
Judge, I would just object based on the nature of the clothing described. There's no dark blue on my client at all.
Sir, which of the individuals, starting from in that well that you were referring to, starting with counsel who made the objection, counting over, which individual are you referring to as Willow?
The one just to the left of the counsel with the objection, Your Honor.
Your left or his left?
My left.
I was gonna object. But no.
Trying to nip it.
The identity of defendant Willow is noted for the record without objection.
After defendant Willow put her body between you and Lewis, strike that. When Willow put her body between you and Lewis, did you still have your arm or your hand on Lewis?
I did.
And what happened then?
I maintained hold of Lewis, and at some point, Willow was pulled through the line by Sergeant Feltes.
What do you mean by pulled through the line?
She was taken into custody.
Was there anything else going on with Lewis, you, and Willow around that same time?
Yeah, so right as Willow was pulled through the line, I still had a hold of Lewis. And I observed her kind of punch down, and then another subject had a brown jacket on, kind of bear hugged Lewis and was moving her in the direction away from arresting officers.
So how was he moving her away?
So they're both backpedaling. So they're both facing me, but they're moving backwards with their feet, and he is using his arms to wrap her up and move her away from officers.
And you still have a hand on Lewis?
I do at this time.
And are you still attempting to pull her to arrest her?
Yes.
And what do you feel on the other end of your hand?
I feel resistance and I feel motion in the opposite direction.
What happened then?
What happened then is I started to feel myself moving away from the line. So me and another officer that was next to my right at the time, Officer Bolton, we made the decision to let go of Lewis because we were being pulled away from the line. for officer safety to like go to Lewis. And then I heard Bolton say, get him, he tried to stop my arrest.
Who is he referring to, if you know?
He's referring to Shapiro.
Who is Shapiro?
He was the subject that was later arrested and was bear hugging Lewis.
Wait, I'm unclear. Who is the one saying?
I'm sorry, is there an objection?
Yes, it sounds like this is hearsay because who is saying, get them? I'm not clear on who is saying, give him this, get them. He's trying to stop my arrest. I just want clarification on that.
I'm unclear on the objection.
Okay, here's
Objections hearsay.
It was a command. Commands aren't statements offered for the truth of the matter asserted, therefore they're not hearsay.
Okay. I'll overrule the objection. I think counsel is more so asking for just a clarification of his testimony. So if we could just do that.
I mean, sure, she could do it.
Well, do it now, counsel. I said do it now. I don't need the back talk.
No, I'm not. I guess I don't understand her lack of clarification, so why don't we
Okay,
ask?
who said to you he's interfering with my arrest?
Officer Bolton, Your
Okay, an officer, and when he's referring to he's referring to Shapiro from your understanding.
That is correct.
That is correct. Okay, was that the clarification, counsel? Thank you. Took 2 questions and then we'd be done. Go for it. Next question.
Thank you. My question, after you had already testified to that, was who was Shapiro?
The subject that was later arrested.
But who was Shapiro in the context of your testimony a little while ago about people involved?
He was the subject that was bear hugging Lewis, moving her away from her rescue.
Thank you. And what happened then?
Officers on scene arrested Shapiro.
How is it that you said officers on the scene arrested Shapiro? Were you involved in that, or you testified that Officer Bolton made a statement to you? As a result of that statement, what, if anything, did you and Officer Bolton do?
I assisted with moving Shapiro towards the arrest team.
And what happened to Lewis?
Lewis was not arrested. She evaded arrest.
Objection is the evaded arrest, Judge.
She was not arrested that day. I get it.
She got away.
Correct.
Why is it that you were not able to arrest her?
Because of both all their actions, between Lewis's actions of moving the opposite direction, kind of tucking herself into herself, along with Shapiro's actions of bear hugging Lewis, and along with Willow's actions of creating space between me and Lewis.
No further questions?
Cross-examination, Mr. Moran.
Officer Smith, you've been an officer since September of 2023, right? And you, at this time in May of 2024, you'd only been around on the job, what, I'd say, is that 7 months? About 7 months?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. 7, 8 months.
All right. Now, have you received any training on how to deal with the crowds?
I did in the academy, sir.
Okay, but nothing after the academy, right?
Correct.
All right. Now, I want to go back to the scene. You're saying that Willow was next to Lewis, right? And was Willow and Lewis, were they side by side?
Yes, they were. Their arms were linked together.
Got it. And they were, well, actually, I saw that video. I didn't see them linked together in that video. Did you?
Further.
Okay. So you said that Willow took up, well, I guess, were their arms linked prior to you trying to arrest Lewis? Okay. So you said that Willow took up space between you and the arrestee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, taking up space just simply means standing next to, right?
No.
Okay. What action did Willow take to take up space between you and the arrestee?
She moved in between me and Lewis.
Okay. So she was no longer next to Lewis.
Correct.
All right. Now, did you in fact advise Willow that she needed to steer clear of your arrest site?
There was multiple commands to move back.
Did you, no. Did you advise Willow that you were going to arrest the person next to her and that she needed to move? Did you tell Willow that? Did you tell Willow anything? Okay, so you didn't tell her anything, and she was taking up space between you and the rest of you. You didn't ask her to move?
She was getting multiple commands to move back.
At the time where you indicated she took up space between you and the rest of you, it's your testimony that you did not ask her to move at that time, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you ask Willow to put her hands up?
No.
Willow never extended her arms towards you or anything?
No.
Never assaulted you in any manner? Never did anything besides simply standing at the place you didn't want her to stand, right?
She opposed my arrest, sir.
Okay, and you're indicating she opposed your arrest by simply standing in an area that you didn't want her to stand in, right?
Correct.
And you just didn't tell her to move, even though you could have?
She was giving commands to move back, sir.
At that exact time by you?
No, sir.
Okay, so after you're trying to arrest Lewis, you're not able to pull Lewis in, right?
No, I am.
All right. Now, you indicate that at some point Willow is pulled through the line.
Correct.
Do you see her get body slammed?
No, I do not.
You never see her hit the floor.
No.
You never.
I'm facing forward, sir.
Got it. So in facing forward, and I'm trying to demonstrate. So you're sort of, imagine if this podium is Lewis, you're sort of pulling at Lewis towards you, right? All right. And at this point, your hands are directly on Lewis?
One hand, yes, sir.
One hand, which hand is on Lewis?
My right hand, sir.
Right hand. Where's your left hand?
On the baton, sir.
Okay. Left hand is on your baton. Right hand is on Lewis. Where's Willow?
At one point, she was again within front of me, but at another point, she was pulled through the line.
So you're saying that when you were pulling in Lewis, at the time you were trying to arrest Lewis, Willow had already been pulled through the line?
No.
Okay, so then back to my first question. If your left hand is on your baton and your right hand is on Lewis, where is Willow at this time?
In between me and Lewis.
Okay. And there's no, Willow's arms never get extended to you?
I don't recall, sir.
Willow never shoves you in any way? Okay. So the only reason that you're saying that she could have been opposing your arrest is because of where she was standing?
Correct. She purposely placed her body
Well,
between me and Lewis, because she was standing at Lewis's side at one point, linked arms. And when I happened to back onto Lewis, she puts her body between me and Lewis.
well, did you ask her why?
No, I don't.
So then you probably would agree that you wouldn't know her purpose at the time, right?
I would say it's to oppose my arrest, sir.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor, if I could just confer with my client briefly. Sort of the scene that I was describing where your left hand is on your baton and your right hand is on Lewis. Are there officers to your immediate left and right? Are they also doing any pushing and shoving? Okay. Are you hearing the command move back at this time? And are you seeing officers do the baton step that we've been talking about all day?
I focus on Lewis, sir.
Okay. I don't have any questions right now, Judge. Thank you.
Macklin. If I may ask the Attorney General to play the relevant portion of the clip.
Move back! Move back! Move back! Move back! Move back! Move back!
Okay. You saw that relevant portion of the clip?
I did.
And that's the description of what you were attempting to let the court know as to what happened that morning on May 21st. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, you described Miss Lewis in this scene. Is that true?
That is true.
And Miss Lewis is wearing the white top and your baton is forcibly hitting against Miss Lewis's chest. Is that correct? All right. Now, as you're telling Miss Lewis to move back, at some point you give a command or somebody gives you a command to arrest Miss Lewis. Is that correct?
It is.
All right. And based off of what?
Off of resisting and obstructing.
And resisting, obstructing what?
She failed to comply by the dispersal order,
Okay.
and she failed to comply with multiple commands to move back. This isn't my first interaction with Lewis.
What do you mean it's not your first interaction?
She was in front of me.
Okay, so at this point in the scene, you're past the diag, past the grass area and almost towards the sidewalk there. Is that correct? That's further north from where you started. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay, and so Miss Lewis clearly has gone further north at this moment in time where this attempted arrest occurred. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, it's based off of the disposal order. The disposal order was given by, you said, Mr. Marshall, correct? All right. And you heard the words of 1 minute remaining before my second warning. Is that correct? Did you hear him at any point say that there was 10 minutes for everybody to disperse?
No, I don't.
You don't recall that? Okay. So you don't know if the order itself was followed by law enforcement then. Is that correct?
I don't know if 10 minutes was followed.
Okay. All right. Now, at this point, you said that she is resisting and obstructing your command as well. Is that the move back order?
That is correct.
All right. And so based off of you telling somebody to move back, you believe that's basis for an arrest. Is that correct?
I'm giving her a lawful command to move back.
And your lawful command is to move back. And if somebody doesn't listen to you, you believe you have the right to arrest that individual?
Yeah.
Okay. So the lawful command that we're talking about here is the move back command that you gave. Is that true?
Being an officer on scene, yes.
Okay. No other reason, correct?
No, there's trespass as well, sir.
Trespass. Did you issue a trespass warning to Miss Lewis? And so where do you get trespass from?
Dispersal order, sir.
The dispersal order. Okay. All right. At that point, you indicated that Miss Lewis hey, you felt resistance on Miss Lewis's arms as you grabbed her arm. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. But you did indicate that somebody was grabbing Miss Lewis and pulling her back as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so you don't know if that resistance was voluntary from Miss Lewis's perspective. Is that true?
That is not true.
Well, what do you mean? You testified that somebody was actively and forcibly pulling Miss Lewis back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you grabbed Miss Lewis's arm. Is that true?
That is true.
And then you also said that you felt resistance of Miss Lewis's arm pulling back as somebody was pulling her. Is that correct?
Not just her arm. She was also backpedaling. She was hunched over as well.
Okay, but is somebody pulling her while she's backpedaling?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and so you don't know if that's the resistance of the person pulling her or Miss Lewis is being pulled back. Am I correct?
That's probably also more than just that resistance, sir.
Okay, what other resistance do you describe, sir?
Like I said, she was hunched over,
Uh-huh.
and then trying to make herself smaller, and as well as her backpedaling with her feet.
Hunched over, are you describing like an instinctive fetal position?
I want to say fetal, but she wasn't laying on the ground.
Okay, but hunched over how? As if you were getting into a fetal position?
No, it's trying to make yourself smaller.
I didn't see that on the video, but that's okay. At that point, did you ever hear Miss Lewis give any words of encouragement to these other individuals to assist in the resisting of an arrest?
No, no.
Okay. Did you tell Miss Lewis she was under arrest?
No.
Okay. Did you give a command to stop Miss Lewis? You were under arrest. Did you ever say that?
No.
Okay. So she didn't know she's under arrest by your verbal command, correct?
Correct.
All right. Only that you grabbed her arm.
Correct.
All right. I have no other questions.
Mr. Minnick. No questions. Ms. Andrews, ask you, excuse me.
Sorry, I'm gonna go this way.
Sorry.
Easier path. I'm going to piggyback off of that question. So you're saying that you did not tell her she was under arrest?
That is correct.
Okay. So, but your testimony today is that my client, Henry, was trying to stop an arrest, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that he's trying to stop an arrest that the arrestee doesn't know about? Okay. I just want to, this may seem redundant, but I just want to make sure I have your words correct, okay? Did you at any time say anything about a de-arrest?
I put it in my report.
Okay. And is that what you're claiming Henry did?
I'm saying that tactic is considerable compared to what is in the de-arrest pamphlet that was distributed around the camp.
Let's talk about that. Where did you get this de-arrest pamphlet from?
I did not get it.
So you don't have it?
I do not.
So how do you know about it?
It was sent to us via email
By who?
by Sergeant Kevin.
Okay, so it wasn't sent to you by a student?
It's not.
Specifically, it was not sent to you by Henry?
No, it's not.
So you're not even aware if Henry knew of that de-arrest pamphlet?
No,
Okay. So you wouldn't know if he knew about de-arrest tactics, is that fair to say? Okay. You state that you were using the term move back. Is that correct? Okay. Move back where? Okay. Okay. Did you tell them that, or did you just continue to say move back? Okay. You didn't say move back north. Okay. You didn't say move back to North University. Okay. To make this easy, Ms. Ryan, can you play from about 17:35, about a minute?
From 17:35.
Yes, it's about a minute. I just need about a minute of that played. I think it's about 17:35. Okay, can you stop, please? So the instruction is to move back, is that correct? And we just watched the video. Aren't they moving back? And they're talking to you, right? To the group of officers.
We're talking to me.
Well, the group of officers, right? There's,
I don't know that.
okay, well, we can look at the video and see that there's an interaction happening. Can we agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, but the directive is to move back. They're moving back. You just said that they're moving back in the video.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's on their own. It looks like there was some baton movement in place to make it move.
Okay, but does it look like they're walking backwards?
With baton movement.
So if your instruction is to move back and they're moving back, why was Miss Lewis being arrested again?
Why wasn't she?
Why was she being arrested?
Or is this even truck?
Because she wasn't following your order to move back? But she's moving back in the video.
But again, that's before my interaction with her directly.
Okay.
We also have the trespass issue and also my earlier interaction.
So when you were given the instructions to arrest Miss Lewis, how were you giving them again? I just want to make sure I get the words correct.
Verbally.
What was said?
Get her, bring her in.
Okay. Get her, bring her in. She was not told she was under arrest. Okay.
Well,
No further questions.
yeah, that's the point.
I'm sorry?
From a legal perspective, she's not at that.
Right.
All right. So I don't know why he would have told her that. All right,
I know why.
Mr. McNulty.
Okay. You just said you came into contact with Samantha Lewis the morning of May 21st, right? You showed us a video on where you're on the northern part of the day.
Right.
And you also said that you actually came into contact with her earlier.
Right.
And it wasn't just her you came into contact with earlier, it was other protesters too, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back to when you and other officers in a line were given order to move and marching. You talked about the half step. Did you use that move?
I would say we moved march forward at half step, yes.
Okay, thank you. When you marched forward at a half step, you used your baton.
Correct.
And you moved your body to initiate contact with protesters.
I moved my body with my baton.
To initiate the contact with the baton then. Thank you. Okay. I would like to ask you some questions about a video, which has been marked, or I'd like to mark as for identification purposes as defendant exhibit A. This is the drone footage, file name ending in 0004S.
That table works.
Thank you, sorry.
Pardon?
Yeah.
So, oh, they did the test. Who designed this system? Anyway.
Teed up. Okay. Okay. Move to enter defendant's exhibit A.
Any objection?
No objection based on counsel's statement on the record as to what it is.
Yes.
All right.
Directly from, thank you. So I have teed this up to timestamp 149. I'll press play so it'll update. There we go. Sorry. Okay, 149. Are you among the officers in the line, the horizontal line?
Yes,
And you're facing north?
it would be yes.
Okay, and you're on the right-hand side then of the line if you're facing north?
Left side of the screen.
Okay. Do you see here the officers all begin to march forward in unison?
Yes.
Great. I'd like to go through some of the context that we will see here. Can you identify yourself in this?
No, okay.
You can. On the right side of the screen, it will zoom in shortly. Do you see many officers coming into contact with protesters?
Looks like one left side of the screen.
Oh, correct, sorry. Can you identify a person in a red or pink keffiyeh in this picture? Okay. Let's see. Do you see people using their bodies to initiate contact with Ms. Lewis and others here? And I will.
I see the top being contact, yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna begin this at 2:18 where I paused here. Do you see a person with a blue shirt and their hand up?
Yeah, sure. I see someone with their hand up, yes.
Okay. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, do you see multiple officers pushing protesters on that left-hand side? Yes, yes. At timestamp 225, do you see the same person in the blue shirt with their hands in the air?
Yes.
I'm going to continue to play it. The officers here have pushed the protesters back, correct?
Looks like it.
I've paused at 235. Do you see a person in a blue shirt still with their hands up?
I do.
How many officers do you think are surrounding that person?
Ultimately, just surround that person, but I would say we call it 8 there possibly.
Right, kind of on the perimeter there. Were you among one of those officers?
You'd like to zoom out?
Zoom out?
Yeah.
I cannot zoom in and
Can you get back to where it was zoomed out?
oh. Here's at 2:28.
Just before the Susan.
I'm not sure where that is. Okay.
You
You, okay. So you came into close physical contact. Do you see multiple protesters falling on the ground here?
I don't see them on the ground now.
I'm continuing to play the video through 2:35, the last mark we stopped at. Can you still see the person in the blue shirt with their hands up?
Yeah.
We're at 2:46. Are their hands still up? No? Pause here.
Right hand.
Okay. Fair. You see multiple officers surrounding the person in the blue shirt.
I don't think they're just around the person in the blue shirt. I think both officers are seeing, yes.
Is it fair to say that there are officers flanking this person?
No, I wouldn't be.
Is it fair to say officers are surrounding this person on multiple sides?
No.
How would you characterize the positions of the officers and the person in the blue shirt?
I would characterize it as it was a line until their movement was obstructed by protesters.
So there's no longer a line because the officers are.
Being obstructed by protesters, yes, ma'am.
But many of these officers are in contact with protesters, correct? And still pushing back.
Correct.
See, okay. Do you see the person with the blue shirt with their hands still up?
Yes.
Let the record reflect we are at timestamp 3:09. Did you see the person in the blue shirt get pushed just then?
No, can you go back?
I would love to. Okay. I'm playing from 3:08. Right there.
Yes.
Thank you. You said Sergeant Feltes with your squad commander,
That's correct.
and he made the decisions to pull people through the line.
I know you made a decision about this.
Okay. You know if you made the decision about other people that were arrested that day?
Little as well. I don't know anybody else.
Okay. Do you see that person being in the blue shirt being pulled through the line? I will, yep. Have to. Back up to 3:23. Right there.
Yes, I do.
Did you have any specific observations about the person in the blue shirt? All right, no further questions.
One of defense counsel was asking you about this DRS pamphlet that private users. What was the email?
It was just a heads up for officer safety.
What was in the email? But your records of
It was
pamphlet.
the pamphlet itself, like photos of the pamphlet. It's contained in the email.
And just in general, what was the pamphlet about?
About DRS tactics. They talked about using a gable grip to have a secure grip around the person.
Just a hearsay, Judge, unless she has this document.
mean, it's just a.
I'll sustain the objection.
It's not often for being too prevent or assertive, but I want to express something council opened the door on and cross.
Which was what?
Talking about, her client's actions and then asking about DRS pamphlets and whether or not her client had knowledge. He didn't know if her client had knowledge of it or knew about it or saw it or things of that nature.
Your Honor, we had this.
So, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Judge, to cut you off. We had this issue come up, I believe, with the Officer Kavanaugh, I believe, testified at the last hearing about this. And he didn't get this from a student. It was handed to him from somebody else outside.
On the street. Yeah, I know.
On the street. So we don't even know if this came from the encampment. So foundationally, it's an issue.
You can offer proof to why I'm asking this question, so we can
Go ahead.
try to move along. Basically, my question to the officer is going to be, were the actions of Willow and Shapiro consistent with what the tactics were described in the DRS pamphlet that you had reviewed?
I would object, Judge, this.
Okay, so I guess, so what if they were? What would that matter to me? I mean,
If you're saying it's not relevant to you, I'll move on, Your
it
Honor.
really isn't, because there could be a pamphlet to say that, describe how to be a duck. It doesn't make her a duck.
That's why I was
It's gonna
asking.
be what I see as to whether or not it's gonna be, she's a duck.
That's why I was asking him in general, what was the pamphlet about?
No offense on the duck thing to all the ducks in the world, I apologize. All right, so I don't need it.
No, no problem, I'll move on.
Your objection is sustained.
I have no further questions then.
All right. Anything else from anybody else? No, you may step down, thank you. Any additional witnesses? All right. Mr. Rudd, any witnesses for the defense?
No, Judge.
All right. Mr. Backlit, any witnesses for the defense?
Oh, not for Ms. Lewis, Judge. No, thank you.
All right. Mr. Minnick, any witnesses for you?
None.
Ask you, any witnesses for you?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McNulty, any witnesses for your client?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Kuja, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Hadar, any witnesses? All right. You're about to make a motion to bind over, I'm presuming.
I am.
And I'm gonna take a break, let everybody get their thoughts together now. You're gonna say something to me, Minnick. Go ahead.
I'm going to suggest, Judge, that given the lateness of the hour, the fact that you've got 7 individual defendants here.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
That we do it, that we do it on briefs. There's going to be, I assume somebody will order the transcript as they.
Let me take a break. Then I'll come back and I will hear everybody's idea with patience. If I hear it now, it's not gonna be with much patience. All right? Court is stand in recess for 15 minutes.
All right.
Case of people versus Chachi Prime et al. Council is all present. Testimony is done in this manner. And certainly I'll hear from everyone, but here's the way the court would like to handle this. I would bring counsel the bifurcated thing between Mr. Minnick's suggestion and the request for just oral argument, but April 1st at 2 o'clock, I would like to continue the hearing on that day. Calendar.
It's just, I'm sorry, I left it in the jury room, I apologize.
April 1st, you said, Judge?
Yes.
I have a trial scheduled that.
Your boy?
I have a trial scheduled that morning.
Oh, well.
I know.
No.
The judge's gonna give me a hard time fast to move that.
You don't have your, you need a man. Always prepared. Find him. I want my money back. He just. I'm not. You have a trial on the 1st?
I do, Judge.
Hang on, let me get. You just sit down. No, you just sit down.
Just stretching my legs.
You, Mr. Minnick, you're fine. It's who's behind you.
Oh.
You didn't take anything out, did you? Let me check. Looks like everything. What about Monday, the 7th at 9, April 7th?
First one, the second.
Yep. 7th would be better. Okay.
7th is good.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll take the motion for bind over as well as the argument at that time. I will let anyone, I'm not going to order briefs, but I will indicate that you can submit anything to the court in writing by the 24th of March. If there's something that you'd like to respond to, you must respond to that by the 28th. So whatever initially is going to be sent must be sent on the 24th, 28th, for any response to it. I am very well aware that there may be certain arguments, particularly as it regards this case, to the extent it may be relevant, which may involve the First Amendment. I would indicate that any arguments regarding the First Amendment must be addressed in the context of time, place, and manner. And then from there, all right? You can address anything you want, but particularly with regard to that argument, I think that needs to be addressed. Anything else from anyone?
Nothing further for this one.
Dominic, anything?
Yes, since that would be for argument, would it be possible for my client to attend remotely from New York via Zoom?
Nobody wants to be in New York. I'm not at this point. If I don't make a decision that day, then I would permit your client to attend remotely because of where he lives. But for this hearing, since it is the motion on bind over and some other things happen, they would need to be in person. Okay. Anything else from anybody? I knew it, Kuja. Man, I was trying not to. I was trying my best not to look in the back.
Actually, it was something Mr. Minnick brought up to me earlier.
Oh, I knew
because the statute's so broad. Because the statute's so broad about assaulting, resisting, obstructing, opposing. Could we ask the Assistant Attorney General to tell us, I guess, what her theory of the argument is for bind over? Is she saying they assaulted? Is she saying their mere presence was obstructing? What is the theory that she's asking to bind over so we know what we're responding to?
Well, when you're saying it's so broad, I guess I'm unclear as to what you mean.
Because there's so many different things that are listed under the statute. I guess
Right.
which of them is she
Most
saying
of
our
them-
client did?
Most of them, which one could argue occurred in this case.
What was that? I mean,
Multiple theories. And
Yeah.
they're different, potentially for different defendants. I mean, they
Exactly.
all know the elements of RNO, they all view the video or the testimony of the client.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, counsel, but I guess I'm a bit hard pressed as to having the people proceed on a particular theory, because that's going to certainly vary by the individual clients here. Plus, quite frankly, there are, for some, a number of different actions which might fall under the statute. And so what is your concern? Your concern is that they might put forth a theory that counsel may not have anticipated regarding our.
well, that, and if we're going to submit our briefs by the 24th, I don't want to waste the court's time or my own time of submitting a brief on an issue that the AG says I wasn't even alleging that to begin with.
Okay, understood. However, I'm sure as you're aware, with preliminary examinations, while the people may certainly have their theory, it also is going to depend upon the court in terms of how the court is viewing what has transpired. So there are times that a case may be bound over on a theory that has, quite frankly, never not specifically been asserted or
fair enough
or counteracted. So I just think, given everything that I've seen, there can be a number of different ways this could go, and I think everybody's just going to have to be prepared for that and argue that. Right?
Fair enough, Ron. Thank you.
All right. Anything? Are you standing up to say something? Good, good. And I was hoping not you. Kuja, then you. All right. Then we will adjourn to the 7th. Thank you, folks. Everybody have a great evening. Court stands in recess.